What's up, Chaos Shinobi here. This is What If Naruto has Dual Bloodline. Summary: in the conclusion of the Wave mission, Sasuke causes Naruto to stuck with 100 needles in his skin. The Kyuubi then used the abundance of resources to create a pair of bloodlines for Naruto to use to fight for his friends. But Naruto's life is about to make a U-turn for the better and the worse. Duel Bloodline Naruto, Strong, and Smart Naruto. Chapter 7. Only a coward of a ninja would be that loud and to reveal his secrets. We all have secrets and I for one would like that they remain a secret, Naruto said back calmly and revealed that he somehow had the whole deck of cards that Kabuto shown. Then, he used a low-level cannon to burn them. Everyone either looked in shock or smiled that they don't have to worry about their enemies learning about them that easily. Then a cloud of smoke appeared in the hallway and when it dissolved, a Jonin with scars covered his face and in an all-black outfit appeared in its place. Okay, ladies and maggots. Playtime is over. Head into the room or you will be kicked out of the exams. The Jonin hurried inside to see a room with Chunin already inside acting as proctors and the room had seats and desks in rows of equal distance from each other. They all took seats that were not taken first and Naruto realized that he successfully got Hinata to sit in the seat to his right, Haku to his left and Sakura directly behind him. Then the Jonin with the scars moved to face every one of the Jonin. Okay maggots, before we begin. He made a silence that really killing everyone with suspense. Hope you said goodbye to the academy because the Chunin exams have begun. No one said a word because they didn't have anything to say after that introduction made by the scarred and scary Jonin. He just stood where he was and more Jonin arrived. In their hands, there was a huge stack of papers. Then he spoke again. Like I said before, the kid gloves are off and it is time to be real ninjas instead of half-baked wannabes. My name is Aviki Morino and I will be in charge of this exam. That means that you and your little pathetic lives belong to me now. Aviki smirked that his charm is still working after all this time of dealing with bastards that are twice the age as these newbies. Then he spoke again. Here are the rules of the first exam. As soon as the proctor said those words, the nearby assistants started to place the sheets of paper on each of the desks and in front of each Jonin that are sitting at them. These sheets are ninja questions in which you have to solve under an hour. Anyone that is caught cheating will lose 10 points that goes for any team member too. After being caught cheating 5 times will be asked to leave the room in the exams. Finally, if you fail this exam then you can never take it again. That was like the calm before the storm and the storm had just arrived with a room full of these only louder enough to nearly break glass. What, are you kidding me? You can't do this to us. Then why are there plenty of people WHO were allowed to retake the exams? Those were the basics while anything else was like gibberish within the room. Aviki smirked as if he was expecting this form of chaos and that meant to him that he still has his touch. The next to do is to get them down to the tests. Silence, Aviki shouted at the top of his voice with a dash of killer intent, key, to make it more efficient and it did. He was feeling proud that it was too soon to retire because he was getting old. I told you, you belong to me now and I alone decide what to do with you. As for everyone else who has taken them before, they obliviously didn't have me as the proctor for the first exam because I am now. Aviki was having a ball downing their spirits with words and ki as his only weapons. Now that you have wasted 5 minutes all of you except for the blonde could been using to fill out the sheets. I was feeling good today enough to give you an hour so don't push it. Aviki made his last warning and the rest of the Jonin noticed that Naruto had already gotten to his exam sheet like there was nothing to worry about. Sakura, Hinata and Haku always found good reasons to trust the blonde's actions so they got down to their sheets too. Pretty soon, everyone else didn't know how to get out of the mouse that the proctor placed them in so they went with the flow as in getting to their sheets as well. XXXXX. Meanwhile, the Jonin sensei were outside the room while actually double thinking about who the proctor for the first exam was elected as, almost like they were regretting it. I never thought that Aviki would be the one to proctor this exam. I am glad I actually trained my team for real, Kakashi said in a rare serious tone and he was even twitching to reach for his porn book. The other Jonin nodded in agreement, like they were actually beating themselves for not seeing this from happening, except for one. Why the worry? And who is Aviki? Kurenai asked in clear confusion and the other Jonin saw it. They fully understood his confusion. That is right Kurenai, you only became a full-pledged Jonin not a year ago compared to the rest of us, Kakashi said with sympathy towards the woman with ruby red eyes. Aviki is known as the mind sadist since he rarely does his torture with physical weapons but words and mind games to get his prisoners to break down and be cooperative. After he was done, no one was ever the same before they met him. As soon as Kakashi was finished, Kurenai was now as worried as the rest of her fellow Jonin. She always thought that Naruto and Haku were good influences for Hinata, one of her students that she saw as a daughter since her biological mother died during childbirth of her second daughter. Despite all that, She was worried about Hinata and how she would be with such a sadist in the art of mind-breaking in charge of the first exam. All she can ever do as a mother figure is to trust her to do well and also trust Kakashi's team to be there and bring her up when she falls down. XXXXX. Back in the exam room, alright you maggots, pencils down and now is time for the 10th question. Iviki's stern and serious tone had broken the aroma of suspense and concentration that existed for nearly 1 hour if the Jinan actually started on time rather than waste time whining and complaining. The proctors were thinking about using Naruto's behavior as an example to support the meaning of this exam that if guessed correctly will determine how many of the Jinan will pass to the next exam. Here is the deal, you can either try the 10th question in which if you fail then your entire team fails or that you can leave the room and fail the whole exam. Iviki explained and silence soon followed. Then a couple of Jinan raised their hands hoping to spare their lives of what will happen if they fail the last question. Iviki waited for more to do the same but for a few minutes the remaining Jinan just sat there. Okay maggots, I don't know if you are brave or foolhardy but I am not standing around thinking I lost my touch. With that said, all of them turned their sights to the one Jinan who was not affected by what is happening, Naruto Uzumaki. The blonde himself was just relaxing and yawning as if to say that the whole thing was so boring compared to other scary things he had to witness years before he even entered the academy and became a ninja. If one was to discover this, they could only imagine the details of the experiences as a whole. All they know is that whatever a person can endure or lose their way will reveal what kind of a ninja they are. Despite this, Iviki was not having his title tainted by a greenhorn. He just went to the desk Naruto was sitting at and shoved his face into the blonde's. Alright maggot, you better cut this or I will have to let loose on your mind. Even with the key behind those words, Naruto's mood didn't budge. What I didn't know is that you are a gay Iviki-san. Naruto said that with barely any emotion and it got everyone in the room laughing at the scared man, blushing in embarrassment. Also I am tired of your mind games, just admit it, this is the 10th question isn't it? Now that got everyone's attention, the Jinan were either shocked that they were fooled or that Naruto was crazy while Iviki and the other proctors were surprised that the blonde could figure the whole first exam out. Think about it. We are placed in a tight room with people watching us at every angle and are told to solve problems that no Jinan is prepared for. It is oblivious that this exam is to see if we are capable of gaining information with getting caught even in a crowded and tight situation. Info is a deadly weapon and sturdy shield to a ninja. It all depends on the circumstances and how the info is being used. The 10th question was to see if we are willing to risk our lives to learn something that could benefit our village and gain an advantage over our enemies. The Jinan were in awe that Naruto was able to figure that out under the same hour they were given in the exam room and the proctors felt like their hard work in making the first exam as hard as ever went down the drain. Iviki just smiled and gathered his bearings. If this maggot could see the meaning behind even the darkest of shadows, then I will feel safer knowing he is part of this village rather than any other. Then the scared man coughed for the Jinan's attention. I should have done this first instead of provoking the blonde maggot but for those who stayed have passed. The atmosphere did feel anticlimactic but they understood that it was their pride that ruined a good ending to a ninja exam but before it could continue, the window broke when a black ball entered through the same. It exploded in a puff of smoke to reveal a woman in her 20s wearing clothes that barely hid her figure. Behind her was a black sign that spoke, the sexy and single proctor of the second exam, Anko Mitarashi. Hello shrimps. My name is Tilda. Anko Mitarashi, special jonin and proctor of the second exam. We know. Anko was interrupted by a rather irritated Naruto making the others around him feel bored too. They were preparing themselves for something much more dangerous and so far they were disappointed. Iviki wasn't feeling any better as he was just standing where the sign could cover him and it did. He just grabbed it out of his way and said, Anko, you are early again. The said woman had a real face fault but that only lasted a few seconds when she started to scan the room and started to laugh. 78 Jinan left? That's 26 teams. Iviki, you are losing your touch. Anko was having a ball laughing at Iviki but he was budging. We have a special bunch this year, especially the blonde over there. He was able to break my atmosphere and figure out the purpose of the first exam. The scared proctor explained without shame or hesitation. Anko, however, like I said, you are getting old. Letting a shrimp like that, cute as he is, ruin your hard work. Just watch as I would show how the job is really done. Anko spoke with clear confidence but Iviki didn't flinch from the insulting at all. The Jinan weren't any better as the action was to be seen. Okay shrimps, head over to training ground 44 and don't be late. Anko said as she disappeared in a puff of smoke leaving everyone in disbelief at the behavior of such a professional ninja. The Jinan did as they were told and the other Chunin proctors tagged along leaving Iviki to collect the papers but once he reached for Naruto's he saw that all the questions were answered in perfect detail and readability but what really stood out was a message that seemed to react to his presence. It said, Dear Scarface-san, there is this Kabuto Yakushi who is supposed to be our senior willing to give us cards on the Junon trying out in this exams, but I looked at them myself. He knows too much. Tell the Hokage about this and also let him know that Kabuto reeks of snakes. That should be a big enough clue to which Kabuto is actually working for. From Naruto Uzumaki, the next Hokage. P.S. This Anko woman is right. You are getting soft, but I am sure you will get your stuff back someday. Ibiki couldn't believe that such a secret was successfully kept that way from even the Jonin, but he remembered on what Naruto said earlier, so he let it all slide. He gathered the other exam sheets and disappeared in his smoke version of the Sunshine. XXXXX. Welcome shrimps, to Training Ground 44 aka the Forest of Death. Anko announced as she faced the group of Junon with mixed faces and feelings, mostly fear with a touch of indifference and boredom. That last one was what got Anko's attention as she threw a kunai towards the bored one aka Naruto. Fortunately, Naruto got help from a real teacher on his reflexes and that caused him to catch the ninja knife. The next second, however, he felt cold metal at his neck and turned to see Anko leaning on him with a look that promised him pain. You haven't said a word, but I was told that you were not scared yet. I may have to hurry things up and I wonder how your blood tastes like? Everyone noticed that the proctor with the hot figure was flirting with Naruto, but his girlfriends by his side didn't budge while staring at him like they were worried for his own safety, almost like they are sure he would be alright but could fight their own worry. Then again, there was this grin on the blonde's face. If you wanted my blood, you could have asked, but you will never get yourself. Naruto replied in a tone that made him look confident that he was untouchable, that got Anko grinning to the point that should only be seen on a madman's face. I have tasted blood plenty of times before today and I have been a ninja longer than you Greenhorn has. So, that will just be a bunch of empty woarg. Anko was in the middle of trying to lower Naruto's high chair with words alone when she suddenly convulsed like she was experiencing pain of many types all at once while dropping her second kunai with Naruto's blood on. They all turned to Naruto only to see that he also had a bloody kunai in his hands but wasn't moving an inch, and they noticed a small portion of blood exiting out his mouth like the drool of a hungry animal in front of its favorite food. Then he looked down on Anko, was somehow moving okay as usual. You were saying? Anko seemed to hear that and suddenly was free of any pain as she got up easily. Then she noticed that she was making a scene. I was saying that confidence will only get you killed in this place and it is no fun when you are not scared easily, Anko said in order to gather up her scattered pride from being humiliated and shown up by a wet behind the ears greenhorn. She went back to her initial position and took out two scrolls in her hands. The one in her left hand had the kanji for earth while the one in her right hand had the kanji for heaven. Seeing that everyone was paying attention and were confused, Anko smirked with pride that she was still kicking in her favorite position. Now, the rules are simple. Your team will receive either of these scrolls. Your job is to find the matching one and head to the tower in the center of the forest. If you try to open them before completing the set or before you make it to the tower, you and your team will be disqualified. Anko enforced those rules with ki, malice and a lust for blood that got the Junon on edge. Sakura, Hinata and even Haku were unnerved by the circumstances, but their worries were put aside when Naruto assured them that things will be okay. Now that everything is understood, I hope? Anko spoke in a sweet tone. Too sweet for anyone's good, as they wasted no time in nodding of the affirmative. Then the second exam has begun. Go. XXXXX. So what is the plan, Naruto? Sakura asked the blonde. Ever since the team really felt like one, they selected Naruto as their leader whenever Kakashi wasn't able to do so. It was the experience as such that could allow Naruto to become Hokage. The blonde didn't mind as long as he was still called by his name. If we needed only one scroll, we could just run towards the tower, but that will just defeat the purpose of this exam. Naruto answered while presenting the situation. His team nodded as he stopped for a moment to try and figure out what the exam is for. A dangerous location, a location right in front of our eyes. We have to find a remaining scroll, with vicious beasts and other teams out to kill us. Naruto muttered out what he had learned about the second exam today when his face brightened. I got it. You did? His team felt like they were going to be in the good zone upon hearing their teammates' words. Yes, the first exam was to see if we can collect info even in a crowded environment without being caught, Naruto said, and the two girls nodded. Then the second exam is there to see if we can survive in a foreign and dangerous environment with beasts and enemies aiming to kill us while trying to retrieve an object they have in which we don't. Despite being on the technical side, the words made sense and the entire Team 7 was now on a roll. So now the question was this: how do they find the remaining scroll and make it to the tower without being killed? They sure didn't know that their answer will come sooner than expected and not in the way they had in mind. Futon, date Appa. Naruto heard that and grabbed Sakura and Haku just in time for a huge and powerful gust of fierce wind to appear out of nowhere. They managed to dodge its center point, but the power it was giving off had launched the trio further into the forest, and it was until a tree stopped Naruto in his tracks while he managed to soften the blow by using his body as a cushion for his teammates. I didn't separate any of you, but it was still a great blast to knock the wind out of your lungs, tilde." That creepy voice snuck up behind them, which caused Team 7 to jump away from the voice and turn towards it within the same minute. It was one of the creepy Genin that seemed to have a tongue like a snake's and always had a hat on her head blocking out her face. "You are right. That was a wind of that power," Naruto said, much to the confusion of his audience when he saw that smirk, too powerful and way too complex for a Genin whose first time is today. "Isn't that right, Hebi-senin, Orochimaru?" His team was shocked by that bold question, and the woman started laughing while reaching for her face, which turned out to be a disguise revealing a rather pale man with the features of a snake. The rest of the clothes were discarded to reveal a battle outfit of smooth shirts and pants with a huge rope tied in a knot facing away from the backside. "You are quite clever, not even the Jonin could do it." "What gave me away?" Orochimaru spoke in a tone that gave the girls the chills, but Naruto calmed them down and kept his stand. "The fact that everyone overlooked your tongue behaving like that of snakes. Speaking of which, you stink of it as well as chemicals and blood," Naruto said in a matter-of-fact tone that made light of the situation. Orochimaru just laughed. "You can smell that off me? You're so weird. You're the one to talk." Everyone thought as they couldn't believe the character of such a powerful traitor. "Anyway, I am wondering where Sasuke-kun is. Could you be such good kids and tell me that so I will let you live?" Orochimaru spoke, in which his answer was Naruto brawling. "Sasuke-kun? You really are a gay fanatic with boys." "Ha ha ha." Naruto laughed at how the snake sage embarrassed himself, and speaking of which, Orochimaru was fuming at the humiliation. "Shut up. You are only making me more willing to kill you for wasting my time." Orochimaru tried to get Naruto to quit the laughing, but the blonde didn't stop. "Will you waste your tea time? Ahem, we didn't tell you to come to us in the first place, and besides, even we did tell you where your next lover is, you will just come back and kill us anyway." Naruto only stopped the laughing since it was making it hard to talk right. Orochimaru may be gay, but he is not stupid enough to be confused on the blonde's answer. He was basically told that what he really wanted from Sasuke was still going to be out of his grasp. If he only wasn't wasting his time in anger and embarrassment, that he would notice that his legs were feeling cold and not moving, like they were in ice. When he finally looked down, his legs indeed frozen. "Hi Otan, hi Shintai Ashiba." Orochimaru heard the voice of the blonde who just made a fool out of him just a couple of moments ago. "I am an inventor myself, don't you know? Damn it. Now I am really going to kill you." Orochimaru lost all his patience, but it seemed to slow him down enough for Naruto to use his next technique. Fuinjutsu, Funhichimon. 1. Kaimon. Naruto placed his palm directly on Orochimaru's head with a burst of chakra. The blonde then jumped back in time for the snake-like traitor to shed his skin like the animal he does imitate the best. Yet, Orochimaru fell to one knee with a shocked look on his face. "Hey, that should be our expression. Seriously, who loves snakes so much to try and become one?" Naruto complained, which seemed inappropriate for this, but no one complained back. "What is going on? I know the Dudapi no Jutsu, too, takes a lot of chakra, but it seemed to do more ever since that blonde brat hit me with that Fuinjutsu." Orochimaru tried to get his bearings back together while wondering what is happening to his body. However, his thoughts were interrupted. Arg! Orochimaru experienced a pain unlike anything he ever did in all his years as a ninja. It felt like his skin was on fire and yet trapped in ice at the same time. "What is this?" Orochimaru was in pure shock when he saw that there were slash marks on his body. Some were leading to his left eye that threatened to burn that part of face away, while the others were made of ice and circled around his torso, including where his spinal cord was located. All in all, his wounds left him half blind and also half flexible, with the ice keeping his central body part from twisting or stretching. Still, the worst has yet to come when Orochimaru realized that he was feeling like he lost a bigger portion of his chakra reserves than the last time Naruto attacked him. "I figured that scum like you will hear about had happened to me, and lucky for me, I got my teacher to really act like one." Orochimaru was still in shock that he couldn't get on his feet, only looked back to see Naruto staring him down with eyes promising to do much worse to him. The traitor then noticed that the blonde was carrying. It was 2 kunai for each of Naruto's hands, but that wasn't what got the sage's attention. It was one in Naruto's left hand was covered in ice that continued to give off frost and doesn't seem to melting at all, while the one in Naruto's right hand was boiling water in the shape of a dagger like the one of ice. "Now Orochi team, don't think of making me a threat." Naruto spoke again. "I did this because we both have good reasons not to waste energy and time. You can't afford to grab the attention of the Anbu and the Hokage, while I can afford to waste time me and my team can use to prepare for the rest of the Chunin exam. Go if you want, but not even your boy toy Kabuto can heal your humiliation of today. Remember that. Naruto finished his little speech and turned away while Orochimaru finally escaped with the substitution of a mud clone. For being in silence and awe, Sakura and Haku finally found their voices when they both hugged Naruto in a tight embrace. Naruto-kun, that was incredible. You really showed that stupid snake who is boss. The blonde couldn't help but blush under the direct contract and the praise of his teammates. Despite being in a relationship with Sakura and Hinata, Naruto still isn't used to having an excited girl press herself in his embrace. Thanks guys, he is out of our hair for now, but he will ever give up on what he wants until he gets it. We were glad that he was having a stupidly moment in pursing us instead. Sasuke, he has his wounds and scars to think about now rather than the Uchiha jerk. Naruto said, and his teammates nodded, not wanting to leave their strong and cool teammate. The blonde didn't complain as he knew not to deny a fair lady of what she wants so harshly. Now let's get out of this forest before anything else happens. The girls nodded, finally getting their head out of Naruto's chest, but making sure he was not too far from them for their own sake. Team 7 then left behind the site of their encounter with Orochimaru altogether. XXXXX. Ow. Hiss. Orochimaru was not having his day even with his trusted partner Kabuto healing him. In reality, the glass-wearing medic was actually making sure that the scars remain there. Please hold still, Orochimaru-sama. I need to make sure you wouldn't die of an illness rather than the wounds who invited them in. Kabuto may have sounded loyal, but lately, his master had been noticing that he was making such bad jokes that only stabbed him where it hurts the most. I must say, you might need to rethink about underestimating this year's bunch of Genin. For you to return in such a mess that I never have seen in before. Be silent, Kabuto. I will never live this low. That blonde may have very prized bloodlines, but since he is the container for the Kyuubi, I can never take over him. Kabuto nodded at the truth behind that statement. I better make sure that he doesn't get in the way of my plans any longer. He is going to regret crossing paths with me. Orochimaru yelled at the top of his voice while Kabuto just kept his mouth shut and continued on to healing him. Sure, you cowardly snake, but you are just living on borrowed time and the time bank is sure to run out, never to refill it all. Kabuto thought sinisterly, maybe I should think about that very tempting offer he made as well. I figured that scum like you will hear about it happened to me, and lucky for me, I got my teacher to really act like one. Orochimaru was still in shock that he couldn't get on his feet, only looked back to see Naruto staring him down with eyes promising to do much worse to him. The traitor then noticed that the blonde was carrying. It was 2 kunai for each of Naruto's hands, but that wasn't what got the sage's attention. It was one in Naruto's left hand was covered in ice that continued to give off frost and doesn't seem to melting at all, while the one in Naruto's right hand was boiling water in the shape of a dagger like the one of ice. Now Orochi team, don't think of making me a threat. Naruto spoke again. I did this because we both have good reasons not to waste energy and time. You can't afford to grab the attention of the Anbu and the Hokage, while I can afford to waste time me and my team can use to prepare for the rest of the Chunin exam. Go if you want, but not even your boy toy Kabuto can heal your humiliation of today. Remember that. Naruto finished his little speech and turned away while Orochimaru finally escaped with the substitution of a mud clone. For being in silence and awe, Sakura and Haku finally found their voices when they both hugged Naruto in a tight embrace. Naruto-kun, that was incredible. You really showed that stupid snake who is boss. The blonde couldn't help but blush under the direct contract and the praise of his teammates. Despite being in a relationship with Sakura and Hinata, Naruto still isn't used to having an excited girl press herself in his embrace. Thanks guys, he is out of our hair for now, but he will ever give up on what he wants until he gets it. We were glad that he was having a stupidly moment in pursing us instead. Sasuke, he has his wounds and scars to think about now rather than the Uchiha jerk. Naruto said, and his teammates nodded, not wanting to leave their strong and cool teammate. The blonde didn't complain as he knew not to deny a fair lady of what she wants so harshly. Now let's get out of this forest before anything else happens. The girls nodded, finally getting their head out of Naruto's chest, but making sure he was not too far from them for their own sake. Team 7 then left behind the site of their encounter with Orochimaru altogether. XXXXX. Ow. Hiss. Orochimaru was not having his day even with his trusted partner Kabuto healing him. In reality, the glass-wearing medic was actually making sure that the scars remain there. Please hold still, Orochimaru-sama. I need to make sure you wouldn't die of an illness rather than the wounds who invited them in. Kabuto may have sounded loyal, but lately, his master had been noticing that he was making such bad jokes that only stabbed him where it hurts the most. I must say, you might need to rethink about underestimating this year's bunch of Genin. For you to return in such a mess that I never have seen in before. Be silent, Kabuto. I will never live this low. That blonde may have very prized bloodlines, but since he is the container for the Kyuubi, I can never take over him. Kabuto nodded at the truth behind that statement. I better make sure that he doesn't get in the way of my plans any longer. He is going to regret crossing paths with me. Orochimaru yelled at the top of his voice while Kabuto just kept his mouth shut and continued on to healing him. Sure, you cowardly snake, but you are just living on borrowed time and the time bank is sure to run out, never to refill it all. Kabuto thought sinisterly, maybe I should think about that very tempting offer he made as well. In another part of the Forest of Death. What's wrong, Gaara? You have been spacing out more than lately. In another part of the forest, the team from Suna was going at their own pace after running into a team from Ame which they killed without even a scratch on them. But the youngest seemed to be not thinking about finding the remaining scroll or getting to the tower as fast as possible but something else. His teammates noticed it and they seemed to be afraid of that, like they think Gaara was thinking of killing to get them from slowing him down. But that was not it. I am perfectly fine and I will be better if I didn't get such concern from trash like you, Gaara said harshly and with no other emotion in that voice which sounded dead. Mother was just telling me to look for the blonde who got us to this part of the exam. She said that she sensed that he had shown an example of his power and that it means he is more of a threat to my safety. Gaara's teammates felt even more frightened because they heard about his mother before, and if there is something that makes her want Gaara to eliminate, then this blonde could really dangerous. It was the instinct they developed since they were made a team back in their home village. If that is the case. A voice that they recognized from before had snuck up behind them. They turned around to see Konoha's Team 7 in front of them. Let's hear it. Team Suna was silent, but that was actually them with troubling thoughts in mind. What is wrong with them? Don't they know that Gaara can kill them? Still, they look confident and cool, yet not even a bit arrogant like the rest. How is that Gaara couldn't sense them? It was like they toyed with his powers just to make an impression like before. What is with that aura? It is so bad that mine is not even affecting it, and instead it is causing Mother to be afraid. If only I could assure myself that I could taste his blood, then no one will ever ignore me again. Yet, in all this thinking, the moment was interrupted when Naruto decided it was still his turn, and speaking, if you are done with the hard thinking, then we will be on our way. True to that, Team 7 turned around with a thought, just the whisper, thanks for finding the other scroll for us. Despite that, Team Gaara heard that and realized that one of their scrolls is missing. Only the one they were given was left, an earth scroll. There was then a moment of killer silence before they finally got their voices back. He stole our scroll. Now, while his teammates were panicking and cursing, Gaara wasn't concerned about the fact that Naruto was able to pickpocket them, but because he stood out from the rest of shinobi his age as the only one that wasn't even afraid of him, instead got him afraid, and Gaara hadn't felt afraid since his childhood back in Suna with all the assassins trying to split his neck for petty reasons. This Naruto, he is doing it all wrong, and yet it only got him to be stronger than me. I need to find out why so I can prove that I exist. Gaara muttered to himself before threatening his teammates into following him and find another heaven scroll to deliver to the tower. XXXXX. How are you doing all this, Naruto-kun? First Orochimaru and then this Gaara fellow, what is it that they don't want to fight you? Sakura asked with good meaning, and Haku nodded. Naruto sighed as he knew that it was to come at any time. The truth is that I knew what will happen if word gets around that the dobi of the class at the Ninja Academy and the demon brat of Konoha somehow came into possession of a pair of bloodlines. People will think that the demon was actually giving me power that rightfully belonged to Uchiha-sama, Naruto stated, and his teammates nodded. As a result, I have been busy thinking of ways to get out of trouble. Will people like that Orochi team or Gaara, since you guys will be forced to be in the hot water I keep falling in? Then, Sakura said and distanced off when Naruto nodded. I managed to get Orochimaru to flee because I took him by surprise and landed hits on him that he had no way of preparing for. No doubt a twisted genius like him will just recover and be back while knowing what I can do with my new power. Naruto explained that made perfect sense to his team as they both nodded in approval. As for Gaara, it seemed oblivious to me that he has been listening to a voice in his mind that he thinks it belongs to his mother. Under all that sand and emotionless face, he is still a scared little boy who could do nothing but try to keep his mother happy by doing all those killing. I know, because his sand reeked with blood. That is why I want to help him, to get him to leave that shell and be with his real family rather than seek comfort from just a voice. That sure left a mark in the girls' minds that their teammate was able to look into a person's soul and see what they really are, to help them leave their shell and show the world their true face. If this keeps up, Naruto may just succeed with Gaara if the blonde will take his time and use his words right. But for now, the important part was getting to the tower in the forest, since they had both needed scrolls in hand. Without most trouble, Team 7 finally did arrive there and entered through the doorway. Inside was a large space with a sign that had writing on it. It said, "If you lack in earth, then run through the fields and seek opportunities. If you lack in heaven, then expand your horizon. If you lack in both, then you are doomed to fail. If you lack in none, Then there is nothing you can't do. Hiruzen Sarutobi, 3rd Hokage of Konohagakure. As soon as those words were read, there was a silence once more, this time to try and make sense of this riddle that seemed to be connected to the Earth and Heaven scrolls the Genin had to collect before coming here, or they would be disqualified from the exams entirely. Then Naruto's eyes widened and his face shined like the sun. I got it. When he does that, that meant for his team to listen to what he had to say. We got to open our scrolls at the same time for this to work. Haku and Sakura took out the Earth and Heaven scrolls respectively to see that they had the kanji for human in them. Then the symbols started to smoke and glow, causing the girls to drop them on the ground. The scrolls moved into an X shape which caused a smoke cloud to appear. When it lifted, there was person there, and not just any person, Iruka-sensei. Hey guys, I guess the rumors of a new member of the Konoha Shinobi Corps were true. The academy teacher that was there when the generation that Naruto was part of graduated to become full-fledged Genin. My name is Iruka Umino, a teacher at the Ninja Academy of Konohagakure. What is your name? Iruka asked Haku, who was relieved that he was friendly and polite. My name is Haku, and yes, I am a latest member of your ninjas. You can thank Naruto for it. Haku introduced herself and Iruka smiled at it. Wow guys, now that I think of it, you are the first team to arrive, so you have 5 days until the 3rd exam starts. Use that time to rest and practice. Until then, see you later. Iruka explained before he disappeared in a puff of smoke once more. But before anyone could do anything, they heard a shout of joy and desperation. Naruto-kun. When Team 7 turned around, the blonde was knocked down by a blur with the shade of lavender and moon blue. On a closer look, it was confirmed to be Hinata holding on Naruto like he was a lifeline. Once the blonde got back on his feet, he embraced Hinata back. I missed you too, Hinata, but you seem scared. Why is that? Naruto asked, but he was only getting an answer that will make him regret ever asking. You can't run away from me, Hinata-chan. That voice made Naruto's blood boil because it belonged to Kiba, who called himself a ladies' man, but in reality he was only a boy with a swollen head filled with pride and lust for his own teammate. You know I am a better choice for a boyfriend than the. Sure enough, Kiba Inuzuka of Team 8 then come from the same direction that Hinata did towards Naruto in the first place. He just took one look at his teammate in the comfort of her boyfriend and put on an angry face. Dobe. Stay away from her, ARGH. The dog boy was interrupted from his yelling with a punch to the face that landed him into a wall behind him. Hinata saw that Naruto had made a clone to hold her while he, the real one, was free and able to do what he wanted ever since he started dating Hinata. That should be my line, Naruto yelled in a tone that surprised everyone present because he used to be so calm. I tolerated you being around Hinata-chan because you are her teammate, but every time I ask how your team is, she will always answer that you are making her feel uncomfortable and hurt her for just saying no. I have to heal her up, and just before today, she had claw marks around her neck. This time, the rest of Team 7 was getting as angry as Naruto is. You even had the nerve to say that you will battle me just to have Hinata-chan for all yourself, and I see that you are trying to steal her behind my back anyway. I thought you dog lovers had more pride and honor to better than that. Before Kiba could try to argue or Naruto to rant more, the dog boy was slapped hard on the cheek and then started to behave like he was tied up while on fire, judging by his screams. Everyone got a good look of the person who did this and, to Hinata's relief and joy, it was Kurenai Yuhi, the leader and Jonin teacher of Team 8. Thank you, Naruto-kun. I have heard enough, and I will make sure that the Inuzuka clan will also hear about this disgrace for a future head. Take Hinata-chan with your team upstairs while I take care of this horn dog. No one even spoke while watching a furious woman take charge and depart without other trouble. Let's not make her matter and do what she said. Okay, Shino? Naruto said, and when he addressed the remaining member of Team 8, the others finally noticed that during the whole incident, he never revealed himself until he did from where his teammates appeared from. Yes, Naruto-san, I will be in my own room. As soon he arrived, Shino departed for the side of the tower with the quarters for Genin who came under the 5-day time limit. Naruto just gently took Hinata from his clone into his arms and towards their room with the rest of Team 7 behind him. Haku said she will check out the rest of the tower, so she left her teammate with his mates to their time alone together. XXXXX. Finally, in their own private room, Naruto and his girls, Sakura and Hinata, all sat on the bed with the latter two on each of his sides. While I don't approve you antagonizing your own comrade, but I do agree he was meddling outside his own business, Sakura said with a smile on her face while she snuggled in her boyfriend's warmth. Yeah, I feel a lot better while I am around you rather than Kiba, Hinata agreed while enjoying the same sensation as her fellow lover is. She just felt like not letting go, especially Naruto's chest. Thank you for correcting him. I think that sensei can take care of this problem. Naruto smiled that he managed to brighten Hinata's day again after how she had to endure her own teammates' attempts to make her forget about her boyfriend and stay by his side instead. It really ticked him off that his own comrade was willing to break a fair girl's heart just for his own. But he put that all aside since otherwise, it will ruin his whole evening. It was no problem. I knew that the dog breath will snap someday, but let's flush that bad memory down the drain with something I should have done a while ago. Despite how weird it sounded, Naruto's girlfriends listened in what the blonde had meant by his words. Their answer was Naruto taking out 2 sheets of paper with markings similar to sealing scrolls and explosive notes but in entirely different patterns. Then they noticed that Naruto was looking nervous and reluctant on what he is planning to do with them. Like he was thinking his next action was going to freak them out. Girls, I have something to ask and I am going to regret it. Naruto really sounded like his statue from before was crumbling, but it was instantly repaired when Hinata and Sakura kissed him on the left and right cheek respectively. Don't worry Naruto-kun, Hinata said, you can ask us anything, we are your girlfriends. Naruto nodded, feeling a little better. Thank you girls, I will need you to remove your underwear. Naruto finally got it out of his mouth and braced for a bashing from both of them, but instead, he heard giggling from both of them. Oh, you want to make love with us already? You must really love us that much, Sakura said in a seductive tone while Hinata licked his lips hungering for what her fellow girlfriend is suggesting. Yeah I do, but if I can do this first, then we can get started, Naruto said in a shaky so he wouldn't let his girl's spirits down. They nodded and looked at the objects in his hands. Those look like seals, but I thought there were only 2 ways to use them. Hinata spoke in a mildly curious tone and Sakura nodded. That is the thing. Gigi gave me a book on something called Fuinjutsu, and ever since, making these seals was like I was born for them. So I made these seals hoping to revolutionize the ways of kunoichi with you girls as the first 2 users. Naruto explained, and the said girls allowed him to go on. They are to be implanted on the area above a woman's vagina to be powered by a kunoichi's chakra. These are basically anti-rape seals. As soon as those words left the blonde's mouth, Hinata and Sakura were in awe at their boyfriend's thoughtfulness when it came to their sake. Rape is a huge deal in the world of kunoichi since it is a huge crime against humility and caused a lot of victims to either retire early or commit suicide from all the shame. Their purpose is divided into 2 functions in which will activate when the user is about to be raped. The first one is a defense mechanism that surrounds a woman's vagina with a coating of chakra to prevent any semen from tainting it, while the second one is an offense feature that destroys the rapist's penis, rendering him sterile for the rest of his life. Now, the whole thing may have been a little on the technical side, but it made 2 girls' day that they have the chance to be protected from the effects of direct rape, and it is all thanks to their inventive and thoughtful boyfriend. They couldn't take in their joy and excitement anymore, and they kissed Naruto in a searing kiss that almost took his breath away. Then they stood up from the bed and each took off their underwear to leave their vagina bare for Naruto to witness. He was in awe for a short moment before collecting his bearings and got to the job. He placed the paper with the anti-rape seal on the area he described, which made the girls feel a powerful sensation since it was one of their sensitive features. It tickled them when the seal left the paper and onto their bodies in order to secure the area as they were programmed to. Soon, the seal paper was just paper, so Naruto was able to remove them without interrupting the seal taking place. The girls felt the seals feeding on their chakra, but they were able to balance the extra output after only a moment. There, all done, Naruto announced as he put the seals away, but when he turned around, he was in for a bigger show, his girls forgetting about their underwear and instead focused on removing the rest of their clothes. Soon they were bare naked with their private parts visible to Naruto. XXXXX. Lemon begins. Naruto, there is no such thing as all done until we drop. So be prepared, because it was hard holding in all that desire for your semen after all these weeks, Hinata said in a sexy tone before she and Sakura sat on each side of their boyfriend and kissed him passionately. It did the trick that Naruto couldn't help himself anymore. He nervously shifted each of his hands towards the flesh mounds that his girls are showing off without shame. He didn't want to touch where it hurts, but to his eyes, they like a treasure just begging to be touched and kept for himself. The girls got a little impatient and grabbed the shaking hands and directly placed them on their chest, moaning at the touch. You like that, girls? Naruto asked, and while they were in bliss, the blonde's girlfriends nodded at his words. Fortunately for their stake, their boyfriend was just getting bolder by the minute until he glopped their breasts, sending a surge of pleasure through every fiber of their bodies. Yet that was numb compared to when Naruto got a little more bold and childish, the least as he started sucking their breasts like a newborn infant. It caused the girls to giggle at the cute sight and from the pleasure that came with it. You big baby, getting out breast ready for children? Sakura teased, which made Naruto got red and stop his fondling and sucking with the thought that he was doing something wrong. Not that we hate it, but we better save that stuff for the future, so let's focus on the present instead. On that note, The girls got up from the bed to show their naked pussy that were dripping from the pleasure sending previously. They were doing this to hopefully fill their boyfriend with confidence rather than caution, since the latter makes sex boring and unsatisfying. Sure enough, Naruto just couldn't stop himself from gluing his eyes on them or stopping his member from getting hard. He then went to Hinata's pussy and started licking it while using his right hand to finger Sakura's. The two moaned in bliss as the pleasure now surged through their bodies. They soon got hungry for more as Hinata used her hands to press Naruto's face directly in her vagina in order to extend his tongue directly inside, while Sakura grabbed her boyfriend's hand and shoved it right in her pussy hole. Both actions doubled the pleasure all the way till they both came all over Naruto's face and hand. "So this is part of you girls," Naruto said in a husky tone that got the girls all red from the embarrassment that they didn't last long. They just waited patiently while watching their boyfriend lick his hand and face clean of their pussy juice. "Delicious, I could get used to this." With that said, the girls dropped on their knees in front of Naruto's member that was threatening to burst out of his tight pants. They had the look that said they were waiting for permission to go on. Naruto just unzipped his pants and took off his shorts to reveal something the girls never expected: a cock as long as a dog's tail and as wide water bottle, which meant it was 10 in length and 5 in width. The girls' minds basically melted by how their eyes were longing for such a huge cock and their mouths were drooling at the size alone. They finally got their bearings back and clutched the cock, gaining a moan from Naruto since it felt good on that sensible part of his body. It was so big, they had to use all of their hands just to cover it, and that fact just made them even more excited. Then they began to lick at it while taking turns at suck the length all the way into their wet and warm mouths that felt that way to the lucky blonde. This paradise went on until Naruto couldn't hold back anymore and released his load that completely covered his unprepared girlfriends, making them giggle. They were in awe that their boyfriend can create so much cum and that it tastes good. "Okay girls, I think it is time to get to the good stuff," Naruto suggested, in which his response and answer were swearing kisses onto his mouth by his overjoyed girlfriends. He didn't mind. He will go through this 1,000 times if he needed to get used to. "Now, I didn't get to taste your pussy, Sakura." The pink-haired girl nodded in approval, so Naruto went on. "I think you will be the first to lose your virginity tonight. Think of it. It will be even better for both of you once we are done." Naruto finished, and with hundreds of pictures racing through the girls' heads, they nodded in agreement. Naruto fell on the bed he was still sitting on while Sakura moved to sit on his face, while Hinata positioned herself to fit onto the huge cock that was still hard even after all that load it shot out. It all started in an instant. Naruto felt Hinata's warm and tight pussy hug his cock while his nose was bombarded by the sweet and heavy smell of Sakura's pussy on top of his nose. Hinata herself felt the biggest pleasure with the long and thicker cock rubbing against her sensitive walls all the while to her hidden G-spot, and Sakura was wondering that if the feeling that floods her body was what her fellow girlfriend was feeling from before. The room was filled to the brim with moans and sounds of flapping that threatened to escape the walls and door, but lucky for them, there are people who are passionate about keeping the peeping toms and perverts from doing their dirty work. This went on for hours, with the trio switching positions only to do them with much more strength than before, which caused their now naked bodies to be drenched in sweat and semen. They never noticed because they were only focusing on making today the best sex time ever, and that means that they keep at it until their bodies are too tried and sore to go on. It was a good thing that all of them got good endurance from their ninja training, especially Hinata and Sakura. Theirs were like that of women legend, and they all belonged to Naruto and Naruto only. Lemon ends. Finally, they were forced to take 5 and collapse on the bed and each other. They were also taking in how much they stick of sweat and pussy juice. They were glad that today was a safe day for both of them from unintentional pregnancy. "Well. Phew, that was fun and extreme for our first time. You girls. Pan or no pushovers?" The two girls giggled in joy and modesty at their boyfriend's words of praise. "We know that, Naruto-kun." Hinata seemed to forget to be shy and timid as she only talked broken because she was wiped out instead. "But we are glad it was done by you." Sakura finished up, and Naruto used what left energy to move his aching limbs and bring both of them towards his chest, which smelled rather good to the girls lost in bliss. "Thanks, girls. Let's just take a nap. We can take a shower and clean our bed sheets later," Naruto suggested, and the two girls nodded and went out like lights. Much later, fully rested, they indeed took a shower together, focusing more on cleaning themselves, and afterwards, they changed bed sheets since theirs were still covered in sweat and semen wasted away and ruined along with the fabric used to cover the bed. Naruto still had to help his girls get used to walking again. Normally this will be a problem, but when it came to sex, it is a sign that it was done properly, and even better than that. They did this until it was getting late, and that meant it was time to hit the hay. They spent the whole day together and just didn't want to sleep in separate beds. It will feel way too weird. So they never bothered to explore the possibility and slept in the same bed like newborn kittens with their mother. XXXXX. They soon woke up the next day perfectly snug in each other's arms, but they knew that staying in bed is just going to make them dull around the edges, so they got out of bed and spent the day having meals, training and hanging out together. It seemed that only 1 or 2 teams will arrive after each day had passed, but the mother load really came on the 5th one, the day that the final exam was to begin. There sure are a lot of them, Naruto-kun, Hinata said while standing in the crowd of Jinan next to her boyfriend. This is because she wants to stay away from Kiba after what he tried to do to her behind Naruto's back. He is still in the exams because if he was to be kicked out of the exams, then the rest of his team has to go too. Yes, what the 3rd exam is going to be may take all day with this crowd. Naruto agreed with Hinata, who is enjoying the fact that she is in his arms rather than that horn dog Kiba. All this was over when the Hokage appeared with Jonin next to him. May I have your attention? The Jinan just stared at him without looking elsewhere. Good. I have an announcement. Before the 3rd exam, we will have our preliminaries matches. They soon woke up the next day perfectly snug in each other's arms, but they knew that staying in bed is just going to make them dull around the edges, so they got out of bed and spent the day having meals, training and hanging out together. It seemed that only 1 or 2 teams will arrive after each day had passed, but the mother load really came on the 5th one, the day that the final exam was to begin. There sure are a lot of them, Naruto-kun, Hinata said while standing in the crowd of Jinan next to her boyfriend. This is because she wants to stay away from Kiba after what he tried to do to her behind Naruto's back. He is still in the exams because if he was to be kicked out of the exams, then the rest of his team has to go too. Yes, what the 3rd exam is going to be may take all day with this crowd. Naruto agreed with Hinata, who is enjoying the fact that she is in his arms rather than that horn dog Kiba. All this was over when the Hokage appeared with Jonin next to him. May I have your attention? The Jinan just stared at him without looking elsewhere. Good. I have an announcement. Before the 3rd exam, we will have our preliminaries matches. The after effect was instant, and not even the god of shinobi could prepare his ears for this. Preliminaries? Are you kidding? We just got out of that forest and we are having the preliminaries already? Hiruzen sighed, as this was to be expected by the Jinan, who did just arrived at the tower on that day, but he needed to tell that for a good reason. I am sure some of you are unhappy, but there are too many teams here to have the 3rd exam today. It is true, with teams 7, 8, 9 and 10 from Konoha, Team Gaara from Suna, the Kiri team and Team Dosu and Kabuto from Oto. That is 7 teams, which meant 24 Jinan to compete, and it will take all day to have the matches all the way to the top. And since we have an odd number of participants as well, we need someone to go in order for this to work, Hiruzen said, and as soon as he did, a hand raised from the crowd. Hey! I will like to forfeit. I am low on chakra, so I can't fight in the matches. I will try again next year. The hand belonged to Kabuto, who was attempting to look exhausted and wounded, but nothing could fool Naruto's eyes as the blonde watched him walk out of the arena. Sure enough, the look on Kabuto's face wasn't of one that disappointed that he had to drop out so early, but one of the planner happy that his scheme was sailing smooth and like clockwork. Fine, but we'll have to leave someone out now that we have an odd number of Jinan. We will decide that in time, Anko said as Kabuto disappeared from sight. Now that is done, we will. Hiruzen spoke once again until he was interrupted by rather strong coughing from his side, and everyone else looked to see a Jonin with a sickly and pale face. That guy ought to see a doctor. Everyone, including the Jinan, all thought. Hokage-sama, cough, allow me to take over. Cough, I will explain. Cough everything better. The sick man said, even though he was still coughing like he had a really bad fever. The Hokage just sighed and face-palmed himself. Fine then, Hayate, just promise me to see a doctor after you are done, Hiruzen said, and the Jinan just couldn't help but wonder if it was coincidence or he was reading their minds of their opinions. The sickly man, now named Hayate, kept coughing while saying, "You know that cough, I can't help it, the pollen of the cough air makes my throat itch." It sounded more like an excuse or just a plain example of stubbornness, but no one was amused in the end. Anyway, wake off, we need to get started. Cough. Then the Jinan heard gears turning and grinding against one another. The sound seemed to come from the back wall that the Hokage is facing. When they turned their sight, there was an electric board appearing from the ceiling, a most curious and confounding sight. This board, Cough, Hayate spoke again, and this stole the Jinan's attention from the board, will randomly select names, Cough, of those who are fighting in the Cough matches. Now please, Cough, go to the second floor and await the first Cough match. Despite being sick, it was still the voice of a man in control, so the Jinan did as ordered. Once they were all on the second floor and facing the board, the slots began to move in a blur-like motion that everyone was having difficulty to follow or even catch up on. It finally stopped rolling to reveal these two names, Hawka vs Yoroi. In the stands, a man from Kabuto's team who was wearing sunglasses and a mask covering his face looked to see his name selected. His other teammate who wore similar clothing whispered into his ear and Yoroi nodded in response. Elsewhere, "Are you ready, Haku? If you win this, then you can move on to the finals and you will have one more step towards to becoming a full-fledged Konoha shinobi and a chunin to boot." Naruto asked his teammate with enthusiasm that made her giggle and sigh at the same time. "That is true, Naruto-kun, but I know next to nothing about my opponent, so I have no chance of being prepared for anything that comes out of his sleeves." Haku voiced her concerns, but Naruto's smirk never left his face. "Yeah, and that applies to him too, so what is the difference?" Naruto said in a cheerful tone that left no argument in anyone. Haku just nodded and went downstairs to the arena where her mysterious adversary also approaches. "I am getting good at this stuff." Hayate was already there and was in the location of the referee. "Are both fighters ready?" They both nodded and Hayate threw his right arm in a chopping motion, the traditional way of starting matches. Then, Hajime. Hayate soon used the Sunshine no Jutsu to arrive at a safer place and out of their way. Wanting to be the one to learn about one's opponent, Haku took some shuriken out of her bag and threw them at Yoroi, who quickly deflected them with kunai. Before he could move, Haku threw herself at him with kick in motion. It landed a hit, but somehow, Haku felt tired already and Yoroi seemed unharmed from the launch. He just got onto his feet again and posed into a fighting posture once more. "What is with that guy? I have shattered trees and boulders with a kick like that alone and he wasn't even scratched, and I never feel like this normally." Haku thought about what happened and tried to figure the cause. Her time was interrupted when Yoroi ran towards her and tried to land a right fist at her face. Haku managed to catch the fist but suddenly felt like something was sucking her dry of strength starting in her legs. It then shined in her mind. You can absorb chakra, can you?" Haku managed to utter while under the draining effects surrounding her body. Yoroi chuckled from beneath his mask. "Quite observant and such a skill that keeps ninjas alive. I can indeed drain chakra from my victims and add it to my own. This makes physical combat useless against me." Yoroi said that last sentence with arrogance that left when he made a yow and jumped away from Haku. He looked down to see what is wrong with his hand and saw that it was frozen. "You bitch. What did you do?" Haku was calm despite the insults. "It seemed to me that you had a trick up your sleeve, or more like a trump card. So I used one of my own tricks. I am good at making my chakra, the one you were trying to steal, as cold as ice. Now your ability is useless." Haku felt glad that she had the prankster king in Konoha to teach her how to make half-truths rather than lies that everyone can believe while not true at the same time. Back in the stands, everyone had a no expression on their faces while Team 7 and Hinata just smiled at Haku and later turned it to Naruto. "I bet you are proud of Haku," Sakura said, and Naruto just nodded. "Yeah. I told her that half-truths will work better than any lie and now she can see for herself." Naruto answered, now relieved that his teammate was able to cover up her bloodline as a special trait of her chakra instead. Now on the battlefield, Yoroi was also buying that half-truth as well as everyone else, so he dashed the strategy of stealing her chakra. That didn't last long as Haku proved to be better at taijutsu than her advisory and completely overwhelmed him in strength and flexibility. The match had finally ended when Haku pressed a pressure point that caused Yoroi to black out. Hayate soon emerged to check Yoroi's vitals and cleared his throat, and the winner of this match is Haku. Despite being in the village only for a couple of weeks, the crowds cheered for the latest member of Team 7 after what they heard about Sasuke during the Wave mission. Now that the first match is over, it is for the second one. "Please turn your attention to the board," Hayate then asked while Haku left to join her team. XXXXX. Once she arrived, she was ambushed by 3 hugs at the same time to be precise. "That was amazing, Haku-chan. You really showed him. The match was nicely fought indeed." Such voices and compliments from the mouths of her team soon filled the air around Haku's ears, which seemed to be overwhelming, but for someone who had to run and hide to survive, it was bliss and an improvement for something. Then another sound was heard, but wasn't anything a human voice can make. It was the clicking of a slot stopping. When they turned to the source, the board across the arena, they saw 2 separate names in big letters: Shino Aburame vs Zaku. Naruto did a thinking pose until his eyes opened brightly. "Hey Hina-chan." He turned to one of his girlfriends who returned the attention. "Isn't Shino on your team?" Naruto asked. "Yes, he is." Hinata answered, and Naruto decided to ask another important question. "Isn't he a member of the Aburame clan that is known for their use of insects to trap and weaken foes?" Naruto queried, and Hinata nodded, making him smirk. "Then that means that he will have a field day with such a brash and cocky opponent like that Zaku jerk from Otogakure." And just like what Naruto said, further into the stands, the Otogakure team with the mummy leader saw what the board had said. "This will be so easy. All I have to do is kill someone who loves bugs and hides in cloaks." That is what the member named Zaku said while his teammates sighed. "Shut up, Zaku, This is no time and place to underestimate your opponents. The mummy man shouted rather comfortably with bandages covering his mouth. Whatever Dosu, I will just blow him to bits and move on to the real finals, Zaku said indifferently that really got under his teammates' skin. They didn't say anything as he went down to face his opponent. Shino was already there on the other side of the battle arena, completely indifferent and stoic like the rest of his clan. Hayate soon revealed himself at the referee's position, looking at both fighters facing each other. Are both competitors ready? He asked. Yeah, whatever. I have no time to waste with this bug freak, Zaku said as brash as ever. Shino started to emit a buzzing sound that gradually grew louder. Zaku didn't pay any attention to it, but back in the stands, Shino's team did, and did it big time. That little bastard doesn't know that even Aburame members get angry and you will wish that you weren't the reason he is. Kiba chuckled as he remembered how his teammate displayed his emotions despite what others say about his clan. Back at the arena, everyone was now able to hear the buzzing, and it sounded like an angry swarm of bees coming from somewhere. It was just getting them nervous. Hayate was sweating because he was a Jonin and he saw how in Aburame's battle, it is scary and creepy enough to make you glad that they are on your side. Anyway, Hajime. As soon as he heard those words, Zaku ran for the frontal assault. Yet, Shino remained calm and quiet and even blocked Zaku's arm, causing him to jump backward to gain more space. There, he raised his right arm to show a tube appearing out of the palm and said, Zakua. The air in front of Zaku began to act like it was controlled into being a damaging wind current that landed a direct hit on Shino. Ha, I told them that I will blow him to pieces. Zaku was panting from using a lot of chakra in that attack, thinking it finished off Shino, but the smoke cleared to reveal his opponent still standing with barely a scratch. The only thing that seems out of place was that Shino's left cheek was open but no blood was oozing out but bugs. Then Zaku heard something buzzing rather closely and also from behind him. He turned to see the area that once faced his back indeed covered in insects. Shino just allowed one of them to crawl to his finger. Do you like my little friends? They are called Kikaiku and they love to feed on chakra no matter the difference. Once they finish then you are too, so I will give you options. Zaku didn't speak a word as he kept switching stares on the bug horde behind him or Shino himself. You can either surrender to avoid the effects of them or you can keep fighting and the Kikaiku will drain you dry. Don't count me out so soon. I can still win this, Zaku shouted in protest and revealed that his other palm also had tubes sticking out as the Otogakure ninja pointed his two palms at the insects and Shino. Zaku? His attack was interrupted when his arms exploded prematurely, causing them to fall off and become useless. What? WY? Overcome with pain and denial, Zaku fell to the ground. There he got a better look of his arms to see insects leaving the tubes. Then? You are correct, Shino said in his stoic tone once more. When you thought that only one of your arm will be needed and used it to attack me, I secretly sent some Kikaiku into the tubes that were inserted inside. The fact that they sealed off the exit caused your arms to explode. Zaku couldn't say another word after that, when he finally fell unconscious. Hayate then appeared to check Zaku's vitals and cleared his throat, and the winner is Shino Aburame. Cheers soon followed while others were still freaked out by either that the bugs used were creepy or that Shino could do all that and still don't display any emotion. The Aburames sure are good at what they do. XXXXX. After that fight was over, Naruto stood on the railings completely baffled by the action. If he was the one to fight against Shino, he was in for a real challenge. He could have lost too if he acted reckless like Zaku. His stupor was soon shattered when the board started to spin names again. He focused on it until the board finally halted on two words once more that said, Kankuro vs Misturi. While Naruto and anyone else from his class didn't recognize any of the names, they were in other parts of the stands. One of them was the trio of Sand Ninja. Alright. I got my match and boy will it be like a walk in the park. Kankuro talked no different than the one who lost in the previous round, which really bothered the rest of his team with his sensei included. Don't be so arrogant, Kankuro. That isn't how the Suna representatives should act. Tamari scolded her younger brother on his behavior while Gaara wasn't any different because his only brother's match wasn't good enough to be on his mind but for trying to keep his lust for blood in check. Relax Tamari, I will finish this in no time so we can get down to getting the invasion started. Ow. Kankuro tried to assure his sister but it got the opposite effect with a bash on his head by her and their teacher, Baki. Ninjas don't have boastful and loose mouths, Kankuro. I don't know where I have gone wrong with you but if you lose then it is your own fault. Baki made a point to his student but it went up in smoke as the makeup boy just shrugged it off and went to the battle arena anyways. Once he arrived, he observed his opponent that also came. Misturi wore the exact same getup as Yoroi, like those two are twins. Hayate was also there too. Are both fighters ready? The two nodded eager to get this match underway. Hajime. Once more, Hayate left the area as soon as he spoke those words and just in time for Misturi rushed towards his opponent to land a right hit in which Kankuro blocked with the palm of his left hand. Yet, the masked man form Otogaku wasn't done and Kankuro was surprised to see that the former's limbs started to act like snakes and coiled around the latter's arm until Kankuro was immobilized by his opponent in a mess of limbs. In case you are wondering, Misturi finally spoke since the battle started, "This is my special ability. I can disconnect my joints, thus allowing me to become like rubber and tangle up my enemies until I snap their necks. You better forfeit before that happens. I lose my sleep for killing kids that come to these dangerous games thinking they got in the bag because they are new to it." Misturi surprised everyone by both the description of his ability and that he was actually giving Kankuro a chance to live because he is a newbie. "No way. I will still win this." Kankuro then threw away the chance by retorting at his opponent despite the situation he is in. "Fine then, I gave you that last chance," Misturi said without remorse when he did pull on Kankuro's neck until a snapping sound echoed in the stone walls of the tower. But, it wasn't over when Kankuro's face started to peel off to reveal not muscle or bone but wood. Then the rest of the body shredded to reveal wood under too, like a human-shaped puppet that then tangled Misturi instead. "I told you I will win this." That voice that got everyone's attention seemed to come from the bundle in white wraps that was almost forgotten during the previous events. It unraveled itself to reveal the real Kankuro in prefect health with blue string that connected his fingers to the puppet. It then hit everyone in the stands. Kankuro secretly hid himself in the bundle while controlling the puppet disguised as him from underneath the wrappings. "And now you will get your neck snapped." Kankuro finished as the puppet did indeed broke Misturi's neck as well as the rest of the body, and that was the first death in the preliminaries. Hayate went down to check for a pulse or a breath. When there wasn't a single one, he went up and announced, "Winner by death, Kankuro." Instead of cheers like the previous two matches, silence filled the air round after how brutal and bloody this one ended. Kankuro just went back to his team and a break was given to clean the battle area of the bone bag mess. XXXXX. Naruto was deep and thought about how the job of being a ninja comes with killing, but unless you do it and not enjoy it, you will never be a ninja rather than a plain murderer. Killing is only enjoyed by cold-blooded killers. He then felt hands on his shoulders and smiled to see both of his girls comforting him since it was easier than trying to do it to oneself. When they finally finished cleaning, the board started to select the next match names all the way to reveal these: Shikamaru Nara vs Kin. Somehow, after seeing those names, Naruto finally had a smile on his face and chuckled for the first time since the preliminaries. Hinata had a good idea while Haku was confused to Naruto's change of mood so suddenly. "Remember girls, Naras are known for their laziness and their tendency to complain about even the slightest amount of work." With that said, the girls joined their man in the fun, giggling at the thought that a Nara has to do work and they can't wait to see what will happen when Shikamaru tries to get out of it. He will just want to watch clouds. Sure enough, once Shikamaru had seen his name on the board, he tried to complain and whine his way out, but his teammate Ino with the temper got him to fight anyways. "How troublesome, me to fight a girl because a troublesome girl told me to." Shikamaru was a true Nara with that style of talking, or, in a better name, complaining. "Shut up so I can win this match. I am not as happy about this as you are. So zip up your lip." Shikamaru's opponent was also from Otogaku and it seemed that the theme of arrogance and rudeness is popular there. Hayate just sighed at it all and took his position while the two Junon took theirs. "Are both fighters ready?" They all said yes in their own way, so Hayate raised his hand into a chopping motion. "Hajime." On that mark, Kin reached into his pockets and threw a pair of senbon at Shikamaru. He was able to dodge them and noticed that Kin had 3 more senbon in hand. "Troublesome, you can't win by threatening me with senbon if you are just going to miss." Shikamaru was complaining once more until he noticed that he was getting dizzy. He could stand properly. Kin still had a smirk on her face once she saw that her opponent was falling to his knees. In the stands, Naruto was also taking notice on what is happening to Shikamaru and turned to Haku. "You know," he said to grab his teammate's attention, "that auto girl uses senbon like you do but seeming in a different way. Did you notice it?" Haku nodded and then saw something that also caught her attention. "That must be it, Naruto-kun." The said blonde turned to Haku and then to same direction as she is. There, he saw that one of the senbon that missed had a bell attached to it. So, Kin didn't miss. She landed that senbon on the wall on purpose to cause Shikamaru to focus more on her rather than the senbon with the bell on. If the Nara had done it otherwise, he could have been fine. The bell was lanced with chakra to disturb the air around the Nara, making him dizzy and unbalanced. Troublesome girls. Shikamaru didn't sound as lazy and whining like before. It was like he was angry about what Kin did. He somehow got a hold of himself enough to cancel the dizzy-making sound waves off the senbon and got up. Then, His shadow came to life and tried to touch Kin's shadow, but she kept dodging it for that to happen. Yet, her mistake was to try and dodge a clan jutsu of the Naru because they are still geniuses on the battlefield. Sure enough, she halted in her step with a look of confusion on her face. What? I can't move? Kin tried to fight it, but it was for no avail, as if her body was frozen stiff. Shikamaru had a smirk on his face. However, art of the shadow possession, success, Shikamaru said, much to everyone's confusion. How did he trap his opponent in his shadow technique when she was avoiding it the whole time? Then, everyone saw their answer. Shikamaru's shadow had indeed captured Kin's, and it seemed to have help in the form of the wire connecting Kin to her dizzy, making Senbone, but Kin has realized this trick too, but she still has a hard time to shadow the fact that she was outwitted. The W wire is too thin, its S shadow can't be used to capture me. Yes, you're right, and that is why I still managed to catch you. And now, Shikamaru said as he went into his pack for a pair of shuriken, Kin was forced to do the same. Despite her protests, Shikamaru had thrown his stars at her, in which she had to do the same in reverse. Then the Nara started to lean back, making Kin doubt about what her opponent is thinking, until she blacked out after her controlled head hit the wall behind her. Checkmate. Shikamaru was otherwise in contrast to his unconscious opponent, and he cancelled his technique. Hayate then appeared to check Kin's condition and announced Shikamaru as the winner. As troublesome as it is, battle never gets dull. That is why I prefer just to play shogi and watch clouds. Shikamaru was still a Nara and ruined the moment with the typical attitude of his clan. And then, the board started to sort names again until it stopped at 2. When everyone saw it, they knew it was going to be more than a simple match. It was to settle a score between two ninjas from the same village involved with the same girl. It said, Naruto Uzumaki vs Kiba Inuzuka. The girls with Kakashi were just standing in the stands, hearts filled with worry about how Naruto is going to react to the fact that he is against Kiba. They got their answer seeing that Naruto had a giddy smile on his face that started to freak them out. They got themselves back together once they remembered that Naruto was the happiest boy in the world because he was waiting for a chance to battle Kiba, especially after he tried to steal Hinata away behind his back only because they were teammates. Elsewhere, Shino was feeling uneasy about the aura of extreme eagerness that was radiating off Kiba as of this very moment. The bug user knew very well the reason behind it all, because when Kiba tried to assault Hinata the very moment they arrived at the tower a few days ago, Shino tried to stop him when Hinata managed to break free and run away from Kiba, who chased after her like a crazed and hungry animal. Shino was glad that he made it in time to see Kiba being put down and punished for throwing away any honor for his idiotic lust for Naruto's girlfriend. I can't wait to grind that Dobi into the ground for stealing my girl, and once I show her she was wasting her time with him, she will go out with me and make me my pups. Kiba wasn't aware that he was thinking out loud, which caused some people around him to grow either angry or fearful of the dog boy. Even his companion Akamaru wasn't looking at him in the same light anymore. Kiba, the match is going to be over if you don't hurry, Shino managed to say, and successfully got his teammate out of his crazed daydreaming. The dog boy grabbed Akamaru and in haste, tripped and fell down the stairs to where Naruto was waiting at. He and Hayate were not pleased about the entrance Kiba made. That was not cool. By coincidence, Naruto and Hayate both thought the same thing as Kiba collected himself together and took his place on the opposite end of the arena as Naruto. Are both fighters ready? Hayate said, wanting to be more professional and to break the awkward silence. Damn it. Will you just start the match? I want that date with Hinata already. That was Kiba's reply, while Naruto just nodded, with a glaze of hate and disgust at his opponent who can't even control his own hormones. Fine. Hajime. Hayate may have sounded neutral, but inside, he is rooting for the dog boy to lose because he was losing his patience with the Inuzuka's mouth. However, nothing happened. Both of them just stood there looking at each other. They were waiting until the other makes the first move, but even that didn't last long when Kiba got impatient. Dobi, you better give up now before you are killed. You can just count on me to take good care of Hinata-chan and that banshee bitch that you were dating behind her back. Kiba taunted with the facial expressions of hate, lust and disgust that was really getting under everyone's skin. They know about the dog boy's mother, and for once, they were cheering for Naruto to win, so they will spare their ears of Kiba's voice and their eyes from the sight of scum like him. Kiba. Naruto finally spoke, and the said boy was hoping that it was his opponent going to forfeit, but instead this came. Have you been dating Sasuke? Silence. Silence was in the air for only a few seconds until laughter came next, and boy did it fill up the stadium in a flash. Everyone present was laughing their heads off, for less judging by how hard they were at it. Even the children, who couldn't understand it as good as the adults, were giggling along. Kiba was the only one not laughing as the one of the sudden amusement, and instead was boiling up with the humiliation that even his companion, Akamaru, was on the ground laughing at the dog boy's embarrassment. Naruto was chuckling at his own joke, which brought further insult to injury. Kiba was so angry and humiliated that he could barely speak. Ha ha ha, you don't get me? Naruto spoke after nearly lost his head in the laughter. Think about it, you look down on others. You think that your word is like that of the gods. And you think girls are nothing more than property to show off like trophies, and worse off all, baby factories. You and Sasuke have a lot in common. You must be dating him in order to take after the team to that extent. After how Naruto explained himself, the laughter died and silence returned as those words rang over and over again in everyone's ears. This is probably because it is so true that it hurts to even smile at it. The Inuzuka clan head and her daughter were no better. That is it. When I am done with you, there won't even be a speck left for the birds and rats. Kiba finally snapped, and even his lifelong companions started to back away from the boy, and Naruto sensed it. The blonde then waved his hand, which told Akamaru to do what he wants, and that meant for the dog himself to stay out of the way for both fighters. Naruto turned his attention to the mess of a clan heir in front of him. You really can't control your temper, and you let a doby like me get under your skin. That isn't what a future clan head should do. And for the umpteenth time, Hinata-chan chose to date me, and there is never anything wrong with that. There is something wrong with that. Kiba shouted in retort, making Naruto raise an eyebrow queerly and waited for what Kiba has to say next. She should have chosen me. I am better than you. I am not a dead last. I am a clan heir, and I am the best of everyone there is. They couldn't take me out of the exams because I am the most valuable one out of the class of trash. Now, everyone were trying to save their ears from such verbal torture, but that last sentence instead stayed in their heads, echoing like in a dark cave. The civilians couldn't help but agree with Naruto on such a poor example Kiba is setting, especially after that, but the shinobi took it the hardest because one of their own just insulted his own comrades. It was a challenge not to go down there and make a tower of bumps on the head and make a new face of bruises. However, they were distracted. Wow. It is freezing. Brr, are you joking? It has got to be over 100 degrees with this sun. Are you sure you're okay? I am feeling just fine. These were only mere examples of what ran through the crowds, as random people either felt scorching hot, freezing cold, or indifferent. This included the shinobi, who may have found the source's area around Naruto was strangely both hot and cold, while Kiba was sweating on his legs through his pants while he was shivering around his torso that even his coat couldn't warm him up. The only thing that made all this like a walk in the park was what came out of the blonde's mouth. So that is it. Naruto spoke in a tone that was rough and cold to the ears of men, including Kiba, but the women only heard a smooth and hot taste to their ears. You see, everyone around him is trash. Including the Hokage? The noble clans? Even your own mother? Kiba didn't say a word, he just focused on finding out what is wrong with him. You are also saying that Hinata-chan made her biggest mistake being with the one she loves and around real friends rather than with a boy who is just waiting for a chance to rape her. You are insulting the woman you desire enough to throw away your pride and your honor to make room for your own stupid lust. While everyone was breathless and in awe at Naruto's speech about Kiba's disgrace today, the dog boy was feeling something heavy that was quickly taking his will to fight away. Then he noticed that his legs wouldn't budge from their spot, and Kiba only had the chance to see ice covering them when Naruto closed the distance between him and the dog boy with something boiling in his hand. Kiba's head was forced back up when Naruto shoved his hand into the face, but that was just to land the first strike in the whole match. There was something else. Arg! Kiba shouted suddenly, and before he could move again, Naruto landed a right hook on the cheek with a low sweep that broke the ice and the legs under them. All this caused Kiba to tumble to his back, helpless to get up. But that wasn't important, to him that is. My nose. It is burning. While everyone was queried about the statement, Naruto smirked as he walked over Kiba with his shadow covering the dog boy. Burning? You are already close, that one. Naruto spoke, which brought the crowd's curiosity to the peak. Let me ask you, Inuzuka, why doesn't animals like dogs or wolves approach our springs? Why do they run from geysers even before they erupt? Why they avoid the alleyways on the hottest days of the year? Those same questions echoed through everyone's heads as they waited for more. I will tell you, it is simple chemistry. What? AHH. IT stinks, Kiba yelled, in which it sparked the answer in everyone's minds, and for that reason, Naruto smirked. You're right, they avoid what stinks because while garbage smells bad to us humans, it is 100 times worse for those who trained their noses to outmatch ours. Naruto explained while the situation getting good. It applies to hot springs and geysers because they are both basically heated water mixed with other minerals that give off a horrible odor when heated. That is why dogs and wolves avoid them. The smell will immobilize their senses until they are helpless. When Naruto was finished, the crowds all had a no expression on their faces, as well as awe and confusion as to how the dead last will understand such concepts. So, after I learned that, I started to use a technique that involves heating the air around me with some more ingredients added to create such phenomenon. Even though that Kiba now knew what is wrong, he still glared at Naruto instead of tending to his injured legs. What is wrong with that guy's head? Still, Naruto was not done yet and got everyone's attention once more. Why did you go for your nose while your legs are clearly in greater pain? Without them, you can't use your clan's proud techniques or even hunt down your prey like you train for. You should have seen it coming and cut off the chakra from your nose to avoid this as well. You are truly a disgrace to your clan. Dog breath. Even Akamaru, who isn't a human, has more humility to you ever shown today. That last sentence was said as Naruto petted the said animal who approached the two shinobi out of all for Naruto rather than concern for Kiba. Speaking of which, the dog boy finally passed out from the pain both physically and emotionally. Hayate went down once Kiba's head hit the ground and checked for a vital. Afterwards, the proctor cleared his throat and announced Naruto as the winners. Then, Kiba's mother, Sume, with her daughter came down and sneered on the managed body of her son and successor. Naruto was about to give Akamaru back to her as he was still Kiba's partner, but the clan head allowed the blonde and his friends to tend to Akamaru until Kiba proves to be the clan heir for real. XXXXX. After the whole episode was over, everyone was glad to see Kiba being dragged out by his enraged mother and older sister. Who knows what they have in mind for this horn dog? No pun intended and no offense to you dog owners out there. Naruto just settled Akamaru in his arms and took the sleeping dog into the stands where his team and girlfriends were watching from. That was a good idea because Akamaru had gotten used to Hinata's presence during the days of teammates, so she was able to gently take the dog out of Naruto's arms and smooth Akamaru. He was really down after he had to see Kiba act like the scum he kept hearing from others. Akamaru thought that he had the best partner possible all his life. Hinata had finally got Akamaru to settle down enough for the ninja dog to take a nap in her arms. However, it was going to be short-lived when the board started to switch between names once more. When it stopped, there was tension in the air and yet excitement is there too. The board read these names: Hinata Hyuga vs Neji Hyuga. The civilians felt no different, just awaiting another exciting match, but in the shinobi side they are feeling something else. Hinata was feeling a little nervous because she saw how powerful her opponent, her cousin, was, and she still doesn't think she is up for the task. She stirred when she felt Naruto's hand on her shoulder. I can understand how nervous you may feel. Neji and his team has been a Jonin for a year longer than any one of us. You may be out of your league. Although the words are harsh, the tone was soft, so Hinata felt better anyways, but you have been training hard to get ready for a day like this to happen. You will be fine and don't worry about winning. It isn't what this match will be about. Hinata still didn't speak, but that doesn't mean she wasn't paying attention to her boyfriend's words. She knew what he was talking about. Neji always tormented her for being herself and that she was weak because she couldn't follow tradition. But now, she was going to prove that doing that will only make her stronger, stronger than she can ever imagine. Thank you Naruto-kun, I will do my best in this match. Hinata finally found her voice to speak those words and she went down to the field where Neji was standing with his everlasting glare of hatred in his eyes. Hayate was also there too, waiting for Hinata to take her place on the field. Are both challengers ready? Hinata spoke yes while Neji just huffed his own agreement of indifference. Then, Hajime. After that being said, Hinata moved into a stance while Neji didn't budge from his posture or position and neither did his demur. There was an awkward silence afterwards as the civilians waited for something to happen, but for a few minutes nothing happened. Then Hinata relaxed her stance and stood upright with an annoyed look on her face, something that no one expected to see. Are you going to fight like the one with Fate on his side will do, or is all that just buff? Hinata said in a tone that was like she was trying to dig under his skin. Shut up, failure. Fate has already chose the aftermath of this match, so there is no reason to fight. Neji always spoke in a tone about how Fate was treating me like a golden son. Like whatever Neji said that Fate on his side, then no one will want to face him in battle. Still, he was curious as to why Hinata wasn't stirred but was persistent instead. Nisan, Fate isn't a future teller and neither are you, so stop saying that Fate is responsible for everything. If that is true, then don't you hate Fate for taking away your father? Neji actually had a shocked look on his face at how true that question was, but he refused for others to see it, so he instantly changed his mood to that of anger. Don't you try to bring that up, failure. Ah. Did I hit a sensitive spot? I thought the great Neji who has Fate by his side will never feel offended. Hinata continued to mock her opponent, lending everyone in the stands to remember who she was hanging out with, the prankster king of the village, Naruto himself. I will shut you up for good, Neji snapped and ran with a palm covered with chakra, intending to end the match with one strike. It would have happened, but Hinata had other plans. She actually ducked under the attack and spanned on her foot to kick Neji back with other one. That got everyone off guard except for teammate as well as Naruto and Sakura as they saw her practice with similar movements. She told them that she was working on her own style that will stop holding her back and bring out her real strength in battle. Arg. Lucky shot. Now you die, Neji shouted when he tried to do a direct right thrust but widened his eyes when Hinata simply brushed her hand across his arm in motion until Neji was hit with a mean palm hit on the face, sending him back once more. Damn it. Neji got up and tried to hit Hinata but she will always dodge smoothly like the water in a calm river with the flexibility of a natural dancer. Stop that. Neji sure was getting annoyed that his attacks could land on Hinata and he was getting the punches in return. Soon, Hinata was standing true and unscathed while no one can say the same for Neji who was covered from head to toe in bruises and grim. I see you are confused and enraged by how fate is letting you down today, eh Neji? Hinata said with a cool attitude that was only making Neji even more frustrated. Hakirakuchuion Sho. Neji then started to use palm thrusts again but they seemed to be targeting specific points on Hinata's body. However, I was just trying to find out what was wrong with me and the traditional style of the Juken as to why it never works for me. Hinata spoke while gracefully dodging the attacks in succession which got the user angrier and as a result, the movements were getting sluggish and sloppy. Then something hit me, like this. To prove her point, Hinata playfully punched Neji in the chest and the face next. I realized that I take after my mother who never was able to do the style taught by the clan herself. Then she was weak. If she wasn't able to do what the Hyuga clan has been doing for generations, then she is a disgrace, Neji shouted hoping to break Hinata's composure but soon, he will be wishing that he never did. It is those who defend tradition even when it is the one thing that was tearing apart the clan slowly and painfully that are weak. Especially someone who refuses to let go of the past like you, Nisan. Hinata spoke in a tone that was barely any different in this time, it got the desired effect only on the other target. Neji, however couldn't say another word when Hinata charged for another punch. Kaiden. Neji spanned until he was surrounded by a dome of pure chakra that threatened to take apart what comes into contact. Hinata avoided such fate when she managed to halt her advances just a few centimeters from the protective dome. When Neji slowed down and deactivated the shield, Hinata sprang into action and landed a solid arm jab to one of Neji's arms. This caused him to fall to the ground. So, I decided to tinker a little with my mother's notes on her personal fighting style with a spice of the original one. This is the result, a mix of fluid movements to evade even the fastest attacks by feeling the air moving ahead and stiff attacks to massive damage. I call it the Jiken no Kishirozen. Hinata finished her explanation and was like rubbing salt in wounds for Neji's ears as he suffered on the cold ground facing his back. If you want to avoid further embarrassment, you will surrender and forfeit. Hinata offered Neji but if you actually knew him enough, this is to be expected. Never. I will die before I surrender to a failure of the clan. Failures are doomed to remain failures. Neji was defiantly having a bad day to be that crazy talking and that cost him, big time. Hinata sighed as she mentally hit herself for thinking that such a person like Neji will listen to an offering of surrender. She calmly walked over to the sorry body that was too broken of the moment to listen to Neji's demands to obey him. If people were never meant to change then we will never be successful, never grow up, never be ready to face the world on our own 2 feet and worse, never be able to live our own lives. To hold on to the past, which doesn't exist in the present or future, is never what a prodigy or elite warrior will ever do. Think about that and you will actually make your father happy proud, wherever he is. Hinata whispered such words into Neji's ear before using her Juken to knock him out. Hayate soon appeared next to the sad mess and cleared his throat. Shusha, Hinata Hyuga. Those were spoken a clear and proud voice in which cheers for such an exciting match came next. Hinata made a sigh of relief as she went back to her boyfriend's side, not even looking back on Neji who didn't deserve pity after throwing everything his family had left and looked down on others even the ones who suffered more than him. XXXXX. Alright Hinata-chan. That was real kick-ass back there. Naruto greeted his lavender-eyed girlfriend with enthusiasm that seemed to be spread to the rest of the shinobi around them. She giggled at the welcoming party, especially when her fellow girlfriend hugged her like a doll. They say that a beautiful moment can't be rushed but fate didn't seem to follow that rule as the board started to roll through the remaining names until it reached this matchup. Sakura Haruno vs Ino Yamanaka. What? I have to fight forehead? I should be fighting against a real challenge. Ino Yamanaka unfortunately had a rivalry with Sakura during the academy days when they both fawned over Sasuke the most out of the fangirl group. She always told Sakura that her forehead was the thing that Sasuke hated the most and that it'd make her the biggest target in the world. In response, Sakura always called Ino pig in a way to insult her too. Troublesome, you are the one to beat us when we try to take these exams as we can. Shikamaru complained after hearing his female teammate actually acting like a hypocrite, one of the hardest type of people to tolerate and understand. Besides, Sakura-san has been hanging around with Naruto during the past 2 months and I have seen her with my own eyes. She has changed into a much better person than she was in the academy. You can't afford to underestimate her. Despite the warning, Ino still thought about objecting to fighting the weakest Shin'an in the exams. Her team knew better. Ino never took her training any more serious than the rest of Team 10 and instead was thinking of ways to get Sasuke to be her teammate and boyfriend. This may be yet another match to teach some humility. This one is much more harsh than the one that Naruto used successfully to change Sakura for the better. Ino just went down to the battle area where Sakura is facing her on the other end. Hayate was in the referee's place once more waiting for Ino to settle in her position. Are both fighters ready? Are you kidding? Ino said as an icebreaker, let's just get this over with so I can tell Sasuke-kun that I am the prefect girl for him. She didn't see it but Sakura actually scowled at the mention of the Uchiha as well as Hayate. He heard of Sasuke's acts of treachery during the wave mission and was disgusted at how the village was overlooking the very thing they despise the most. Anyway, Hajime, Hayate said, starting the match which caused Ino to decrease her distance from Sakura to end this with one hit. What happened was Sakura actually catching Ino's fist and twisted her arm to land her hard on the ground behind. Sakura then jumped for more breathing space while Ino tried to recover from the unexpected counterattack. Hey! That is cheating, Ino yelled, which made no sense to anyone. Being a ninja, the only cheating that counts is backstabbing and interfering with other people's battles just to get the credit. Sakura knew that, everyone in her class knew that and the teachers knew that too, yet Ino seemed otherwise. Ino, we are not samurais or boxers. Something like that works in the rule book and besides. Sakura paused as Ino shakily got on her feet. If you were better than me, you would have countered that counterattack. Unlike you, I have seen how the world really works and actually started my training. I had lots of good help on the way, Sakura stated coolly and clearly. Yet, you traitor. Ino still hasn't realized how wrong her views are in terms with reality. Training is for boys to protect us. Potential wives don't get dirty from that stupid ninja training. Sakura just face-palmed at Ino's idiocy. It was like looking at a mirror of her back in the academy as a simple fangirl who does good on tests only. This time, I am really going to hand you in. Ino started to weave hand size, ending in a pair. Shintenshin no Jutsu. Ino's body went limp after saying those words and Sakura's body started to shake. In the stands, this is a sign to the clan members or anyone else who knew about the Yamanaka clan that the signature move was used by the clan heir. Right now, Ino's body is hollow of the very moment and the mind of the heir is instead Sakura's mind instead, trying to seize control. Inside Sakura's mind, Ino was looking for the control room to use Sakura's body to her bidding. Instead, she found something else, Sakura's secret weapon. Hello Ino. The clan heir is now face to face with a giant version of her opponent, easily towering over her. Ino has no chance in winning against this Sakura. Outside, Sakura's body stopped shaking and Ino's body started to move again. How? You had a alter ego? Sakura asked. Yes I do, I don't want mind walkers messing with my head, so you are out of luck Ino because you are nearly out of breath. True to that, Ino was panting heavily and it hurt for her to stand up completely. So? I can still win this match for Sasuke. Ino was interrupted when she felt something pierce the back of her head, but with little to no time to response, she blacked out. Sakura laughed at her ex-friend's foolish attempt to savage any pride and devolution she ever had in her head. Ino, the world isn't fair. Girls love to complain about that and try to make it more fair. I have to admit that I was like that during the academy days, but I am still alive and I am still kicking even after I had to listen to my ex-crush talk like the scum parents taught us to hate. I decided to take another chance at life. I am not regretting it today. Sakura knew Ino couldn't hear her, but she just wanted to get it out of her system. It always feels great to get a weight off your shoulders and your chest. Hayate appeared to check Ino and announced, Shusha, Sakura Haruno. The crowds cheered for all the action and impressive recovery that the academy banshee had shown as a result from 2 months of real training in her team. XXXXX. With yet another good match finished and another heavy speech to hit our hearts, it was that moment when the board was switching the remaining names once more. Sakura had already rejoined Naruto and Hinata the stands. Now that they each had their own match, they can finally stay together and watch the remainder of the preliminaries. After a while of terrible suspense, the pair of names have been decided. Tenten Higurashi vs Tamari. Guy-sensei? Lee asked in much quieter tone that had little to none of the excitement as usual, and the jonin in question saw that too. You did teach Tenten a backup plan? In case that her style doesn't work? Guy was silent and looked down in shame that his team picked up. Lee was pale while Tenten in question was just irritated that her team was overthinking things. Everyone else could only imagine of what caused such an eccentric and loud pair to grow silent over something like this. With yet another good match finished and another heavy speech to hit our hearts, it was that moment when the board was switching the remaining names once more. Sakura had already rejoined Naruto and Hinata the stands. Now that they each had their own match, they can finally stay together and watch the remainder of the preliminaries. After a while of terrible suspense, the pair of names have been decided: Tenten Higurashi vs Temari. Guy-sensei? Lee asked in much quieter tone that had little to none of the excitement as usual, and the Jonin in question saw that too. You did teach Tenten a backup plan? In case that her style doesn't work? Guy was silent and looked down in shame that his team picked up. Lee was pale while Tenten in question was just irritated that her team was overthinking things. Everyone else could only imagine of what caused such an eccentric and loud pair to grow silent over something like this. I wanted to fight at least one member of Team 7 tilde. I so want revenge for what happened in the forest. Temari whined until a single glare from her brother silenced her and a scolding from her team leader got her on the field facing Tenten, who was waiting with eagerness. Neji lost and to a rookie no less. I will surely regain my team's honor by winning my battle. That was what was going through Tenten's head, not even on the fight that was just about to happen. Hayate was neutral to it all and just did his job. Are both fighters ready? They all said yes once they were out of their stupor. Then Hajime. Once the proctor has spoken and moved out of the way, Tenten acted first and took out a scroll to reveal kanji writings inside. She then used chakra to activate them, which caused a storm of various weapons to rocket towards Temari. Axes, swords, spears, anything sharp was headed right at the sand girl, but she didn't bat an eye until she took out what looked like an oversized fan. Kamaitachi no jutsu. A huge gust of wind came next after those words were spoken and blew the shower of sharp steel in various directions away from Temari. Not one got close. While Tenten was shocked, her team sighed in the stands. They thought something like this will happen. Tenten's dependence on weapons was more oblivious than how eccentric Lee was about the flames of youth. Also in the stands, Naruto made a look that spoke on how he understood why Team 9 was nervous about this matchup. I can see it now, Naruto said, and it got the attention of everyone around him. It is clear that Tenten uses weapons only for long-ranged attacks. The sand girl can just blow them away until Tenten has no weapons left. With that being said, the audience around Naruto also understood the situation is bad news for a ninja like Tenten. Back in the battlefield, Tenten overcome her shock as she took out two more scrolls, but they seemed to be different ones. When she opened them, Tenten jumped and started signing in the center. Sashoryu. It was like a twister was born in the center of the field, and soon, handheld weapons like before started to shoot out in all directions. Tenten hoped this will throw her opponent off guard. She was wrong. Temari smiled at the display. So you are shooting your weapons from a twister? Impressive, but... Temari paused as she readied her fan and wind started to move around her. Nothing has changed. The battle fan started to glow with the wind acting on it. Kamaitachi no jutsu. The same wind that Temari commanded not long ago returned, and like she said, it deflected the rain of weapons away from her. Unfortunately for Tenten herself, she was still in mid-air and the wind jutsu had destroyed her concentration. She was going to fall hard onto the field. However, Tenten soon wished she did when she instead landed back first onto Temari's folded fan. The impact almost broke Tenten's back, but the proctor wasn't going to stay around and wait for that to happen. Halt. Cough. Tenten cannot continue, so the winner is Temari no Sabaku. Hayate announced, hoping it was going to end it all. He was wrong. A loud crack was heard, and when the proctor looked around, he saw Temari still beating on an unconscious Tenten. Stop. I said the match is over. Hayate stopped in his tracks in surprise when Temari did halt in her attacks, but obliviously not from Hayate's words. No, it was Naruto Uzumaki holding Temari by her blonde hair and her giant battle fan. You know? I was glad to meet someone with blonde hair, as the only one with such hair color in Konoha entirely. Naruto spoke in a calm tone that got everyone wondering what his game was, as well as wondering while Temari was shaking in her position. I will hate to change that and make you bald in front of everyone, including your team. Now it was clear, Naruto was placing Temari in a corner and he was taunting about it. All that started to change when Baki, leader of the Suna team, jumped down from his place in the stands and glared at Naruto. Uzumaki. I demand you will let go of my student so I can hand her punishment. To a civilian's ear that sounded like a threat, but a real ninja like Naruto knew better, and as a result the blonde smirked instead. I don't think you, half-face. Baki was in guk that Adobe was able to not be affected by his threat and that the blonde will insult him instead. You are actually going to give your student a slap on the wrist and scold her for not acting a daughter of a cage she is. That was it. Now the crowds, ninja or civilian, were in uproar that a child of a cage was fighting in the exams. They just don't know if they should boo at Naruto for threatening such royalty or at the Suna princess for not making a good example. On the field, Temari and Baki were shocked at the statement. How did you know that? That info is only known to our village, Baki yelled in outrage, at which only boiled when Naruto grinned. Easy. If Temari was any Suna ninja, you would have gone down and threatened to kick her out of the team, but you didn't. You only reacted when I stopped her and that told me that she was some important enough to threaten me instead of her for breaking the rules. I have seen it before. Naruto explained, and it got everyone in awe about how observant Naruto has shown at the moment. Whatever, just hand over my sister Udobe. Now that wasn't Baki's voice at all, and everyone turned to see Kankura standing next to his team leader and not knowing that he caused another uproar by admitting he is also a child of a cage. He got in the end, or should I say, in the front, when Naruto responds with knocking Kankura down with Temari's fan and at the same time, throwing the Suna girl into Baki, knocking him down. Fine, but you better make sure your sister doesn't see you with that fan or you are really in trouble. I am out of here. And with Tenten, Naruto said, and true to his word, he picked up the weapons girl and disappeared in a swirl of ice. He reappeared where Team 10 was and handed over their teammate before joining his team. Naruto was really crossed about getting scolded for both protecting his comrade and for spilling a secret they did instead. XXXXX. Now that the incident is done and over with, the board started to sort names once more, and the silence ended when it stopped at 2 names once again. Rock Lee vs Mizusumi. Alright. Not a second later did the stadium get filled with a shout like this one, and to those who knew well enough, it meant only one thing: now I can win this match and regain my team's flames of youth. It came from Rock Lee himself of Team 9, the boy who went to lengths to match his idol in ways that creeped everyone out. Elsewhere in the stands, the carry team recognized the second name as it belongs to one of their teammates. They turned to Mizusumi, who was focused on fighting the match against a boy who has shown the potential to be a future taijutsu master. Reminder: our second and real reason to be here, Mizusumi. We need you to win. The teacher, who seemed to be a mummy from clothes rather than bandages, and spoke in a stuffy tone. I understand, sensei, and I worked hard for anyone I should face. Besides, can we really trust the blonde with this? Mizusumi said in response. I may not have met him myself, but your teammates and you yourself have got a good impression of him to share. Besides, if Zabuza-senpai and Mizukage-sama wish for us to do this, then we should not let them down. That was the mummy's answer, and Mizusumi nodded and headed for the arena where Lee was standing with an impatient impression on his face. Are both fighters ready? Hayate asked the sentence of the day. He got a yes and a yosh for an answer, so he announced the match to begin. He left the field, and for a good reason, because Lee ran towards Mizusumi with a leg readied for a kick as soon as the match begun. The carry boy managed to dodge by a split second, leaving Lee embedded in the wall behind with his leg first. Mizusumi took the time that Lee used to loosen himself from the wall in order to gain some distance. Starting things off with a physical attack? Why not? Mizusumi then took out kunai stringed to a wire, each with a piece of paper attached at the circle handle. He then threw them in Lee's direction, who moved to dodge, but for that few seconds, the kunai glowed and changed direction to face Lee once more and successfully blinded Lee's legs. The Konoha boy was shocked that his opponent had a clean shot despite his attempt to move out of the way. All he saw that Mizusumi had a smirk on his face and his hands were in the ram seal. In the stands, Naruto was smiling and chuckling that his girlfriends picked up, and before they can comment on it, Naruto spoke his. Could have fooled me if I wasn't a Uzumaki, and it is a good thing I am. What do you mean, Naruto-kun? Hinata asked, and Sakura nodded along. I mean that the seals on those kunai are not the explosive notes we usually use. They are seals that allow projectiles to hone in on moving objects while still in motion, Naruto said, and that got everyone attention. I am tempted to learn the Matrix formula, but I will leave that boy's village to their own secrets. Still, I need to talk to them about their Fuinjutsu skills. Whatever he noticed it or not, the audience around him, or at least the good ones, nodded at Naruto's statements, while others thought that he was skipping on a once-in-a-lifetime chance to learn about their future enemies. Back to the fight, Lee is trying to free himself when he noticed something burning and saw that the kunai with the seals attached it burning up. He saw this happen before when his teacher and idol used exploding notes on target practice. Lee turned to his smirking opponent with an expression of disapproval. Hey! Killing is allowed, and besides, I am giving you a chance to escape that you are throwing away. Mizusumi pointed out, and Lee widened his eyes and actually got the wire off, but when he tried to throw it away, he was caught in the blast. He landed a good distance away with some broken bones. Still, he got up to fight. Alright, if you are going to drill a hole in my head with that attitude, then I will spill the beans. It is too late to keep them a secret anyways. Mizusumi said that last statement while turning to Naruto in the stands, who just smirked. What you saw firsthand was my Senro Zamefu no Jutsu, A personal creation of mine from when I started out as a Jinan. Lee was still in the dark as he tried to bear the pain in every part of his body. It acts like a shark when it catches the scent of blood. It can sense my targets from even 10 miles away and won't stop until it hits, and will move around anything that gets in its way to do it. Mizusumi finished his explanation, and by now everyone caught on, including Lee, who is now smirking. It is clear that I dropped my flames of youth in a mud pile, but I am planning on picking it up and cleaning it by defeating you. Despite how his body hurts, Lee raced once more but changed into a handstand as soon he reached Mizusumi. Lee then used the strength in his arms to jump over Mizusumi too fast for the carry boy to catch up. Lee is trying to make sure that the same jutsu works twice. Konoha Senpu. Lee then landed a rough kick to his opponent's back, but because of the previous injury and pain, the kick didn't do much damage, so Mizusumi was able to recover before any real damage was done. I see, you have real devolution to keep fighting even with your body breaking apart. Where I come from, your kind are welcome the best, Mizusumi said, and Lee wasn't feeling like taking it while clutching the leg he injured while trying to land a hit. But you are only halfway, and based on what you have been doing ever since, you couldn't escape my explosive notes going off. And the Kiri boy disappeared and reappeared in front of Lee's pained face. Is this? Lee only saw that Mizusumi's arm bulged inhumanly before landing a mean punch to the chest and knocked him out. Silence soon came and was interrupted when Hayate appeared in a blur and checked Lee's vitals. Shusha, Mizusumi. Cheers for such a good show appeared for some, but others were not so sure about the humiliating defeat of a boy with such bravery and devolution. XXXXX. When the match was over, they had to brace their ears for when the leader and teacher of Team 9, Mighty Guy, ranted about his team failing their fights completely. He also said that he was going to train his team harder for next year, so all of them were going to make it to Chunin. Guy did all that until his was only an inch from losing his voice, and everyone wished it would have happened anyways. Their attention was to the board for the next matchups, and it stopped at 2 words again. Dosu vs Gaara. In the stands where the Suna team was stationed, Gaara grinned that he had his match after waiting so long. He disappeared in a swirl of sand and appeared on the field where his opponent, a man covered in bandages with his left eye showing and garments on each of his arms that had holes in them. Hayate was also there in the middle of them as his role of the proctor. Are both fighters ready? His answer was a gruff yes from Dosu and a raspy whatever from Gaara, and those were good enough for him. Hajime. Hayate announced and used his shunshine to move out of the way, which was the wisest choice since Dosu raced towards Gaara with his gloves with holes. Kiyomisan. The air ripped around the metal device and it seemed to affect the ground below as the dirt and stone started to shake and break apart. However, Dosu's target, which happens to be Gaara, was not hurt as Dosu hit nothing but sand that seemingly came out of nowhere. What? I can't get free. Dosu panicked as he couldn't move his arm out of the wall of sand that absorbed his attack and captured him. Interesting. Your use of sound waves to attack your opponents. Gaara spoke in a tone with no emotion whatsoever. But do you know for a fact that sand is like a buffer? Sound can never get through and is muted instead. Bad news for you. Gaara finished while commanding his sand to cover Dosu entirely, creating a cocoon-shaped prison that Dosu couldn't do anything other than struggle and scream through the thick sand. Sabaku-kyu. The screams of pain and fear were the only things heard before the sound of crushing bones and fresh arrived in everyone's ears as the sand bundle that held Dosu of Otogakure started to leak blood. Enough. Cough. Hayate spoke as he appeared on the arena. Gaara didn't pay any attention and just dumped the mess of blood and bones while retracting his sand into the gourd on his back. The proctor didn't even need to check it out. Winner by cough death. Gaara no Sabaku. No cheers were heard or any boos. Just silence as Onbu agents cleaned up the mess along with the blood that was molding into the ground that made up the arena. XXXXX. After the dreadful match, Gaara used a sand shunshine to reappear at his team in the stands. They were only nervous that their teammate and brother was still inset on killing his opponents. Everyone else were given 10 minutes to throw up in private and get their bearings back together. Fortunately, there was to be one last match before the preliminaries were over. The board then started to choose the matchups until it stopped once more at 2 names. Choji vs Akonami. Alright. It is about time I had my match. I have been waiting too long. For someone who's seen more than deaths for anyone's lifetime, Choji Akimichi sure is excited that his name has been decided for this last match since there was an odd number of Jinan at the start. After this, there will only be one left. Elsewhere in the stands, the Kiri team were a lot more focused about this than Choji is showing. Akonami, remember. We don't want any bloodshed after that Suna kid did without remorse back there. We want this match to be as clean as it can be and much better for the well-being of the others in the stand. The mummy leader of Kiri spoke brief and to the point. The girl nodded and went towards her place on the field. Are both fighters ready? Hayate asked and Choji yelled a big yes while Akonami just nodded so. Then Hajime. Hayate then moved out of the way just in time to dodge some kunai with explosive notes attached that were already burning. "That again? I may be big boned but I am not stupid," Choji proclaimed while preforming hand seals. "Nikuden Sensha." Choji expanded to resemble a ball and rolled over the notes, smothering them against the ground below and thus successfully extinguished them before the notes can explode. "Now I am impressed," Akonami said while her opponent was still rolling around like a giant bowling ball, "but your rollout fun won't protect you from this." The Kiri girl ran towards Choji and while only centimeters from each other, Akonami managed to shift her entire body to her left and brushed her right arm, glowing in a blue aura, on Choji's unprotected side, Jukusame no Hata. In that next second, the image of a fierce shark passed right through Choji who was still in ball form and the Akimichi air dropped to the ground while covered in blood and cuts. Hayate dropped to see Choji's vitals and saw that the boy was only in deep pain that couldn't get up from the floor. Hayate stood up and cleared his throat. "Shosha, Akonami." Cheers soon rang in the ears of those on the field and in the stands as the last match of the painfully long preliminaries has been announced over. XXXXX. After the mess was cleaned up and repairs were made, every remaining Genin were called to the field. The Hokage was standing in front of them like at the start of the preliminaries. Only the amount of fighters were successfully cut down to half, a more suitable number of participates for the finals. Now that the preliminaries are finished, it is time to prepare for the finals. Hiruzen, the Hokage, announced and silence followed instead of protests like at the start of the day. "Now, we are going to decide the matchups by random once more but by a different method." As soon as that was said, a Jonin appeared with a box that had an opening in the top, big enough for even a grown-up's hand to fit in. Instead of this box are 12 sheets each with a number from 1 to 12 written on. Each of you will reach in and take out a number sheet but do not reveal your number yet. The 12 Genin did as told and soon, they each had a number in their hands. Anko then stepped forward with Ibiki by her side with a chart similar to the shape of tree roots, circles paired up all the way to only one on the top. "Is that what the finals are? This looks more like a simple tournament compared to the last exams. There has got to be a secret meaning to this like the rest of the Chunin exam." "Okay maggots," Anko announced, breaking everyone out of their thoughts like those above. "One at a time, you will open your sheet and speak your number. Ibiki will write your names down according to the numbers you say." The Genin then opened their sheets at the same time and it went as followed: 3, 1, 7, 5, 2, 10, 4, 12, 9, 6, 8, 11. Ibiki finished writing down everyone's names in the order they spoke their number. "Thank you maggots and now read it and weep." The sadist Jonin spoke and revealed the chart in which he filled out. The matches went as followed: Hinata vs Sakura. The two girls looked at each other, not with the look of taking the other down but one to do the best they can. "A fight between loves is very fitting, isn't it?" Hinata asked and Sakura smirked. "Let's show how strong we are when we fight." "Agreed." Haku vs Kankuro. "Prepare yourself makeup bod or I will freeze all that powder off your face," Haku threatened in a sweet voice that got everyone else on edge, especially Kankuro who was a little worried about the plan as soon as he saw Naruto in action moments earlier. Naruto vs Akonami. Naruto turned to find his opponent and found her. "Let's fight with everything we have during the finals." Akonami had a good idea that something like this will come so she just nodded. "Of course and beware, I am not a pushover. And I am not looking forward if you are." Naruto responded. "Right." Shikamaru vs Tamari. "I have to fight another girl? Now that I have to train, I can't watch the clouds at all. How troublesome." Shikamaru complained like a pure Nara he is and Tamari was not happier the least. "I have to fight a Nara? They are the laziest people in the world and I don't care if he won his match, this one will be a waste of time." Gaara vs Mizusami. "I am not interested in your tricks or magic but your blood so it better be good enough for mother." Gaara thought darkly in his head while his opponent was also in his thoughts. "I better train so I can at least put on a good show before we have to move on with our plan." Shino vs Chojuro. Shino looked at the boy who had a dual-handled sword covered in wrappings on his back and glasses on his face. "Let's do our best and learn from each other to understand another better. An Aburame may be creepy with their fetish with bugs but they are polite and respectful to even strangers and outsiders." The boy nodded. Thank you. Let us be battle ARG greatest in the finals." Chojuro responds in a similar manner to Hinata during the academy yet this boy screamed power off its presence to an Aburame like Shino. "Now that you all had the chance to meet your adversary for the finals, you are all dismissed to start training until the finals start again over a month's time. May you do your best and not forget what the real meaning to a ninja is." Hiruzen announced off the Genin who went their separate ways. What they don't know if that there was evil plotting the shadows with the info they gathered from the matches and figuring out what to expect when the finals start. One thing is certain is that the finals are something not to forget even they wanted to. Now that you all had the chance to meet your adversary for the finals, you are all dismissed to start training until the finals start again over a month's time. May you do your best and not forget what the real meaning to a ninja is. Hiruzen announced off the Genin who went their separate ways. What they don't know if that there was evil plotting the shadows with the info they gathered from the matches and figuring out what to expect when the finals start. One thing is certain is that the finals are something not to forget even they wanted to. Location: somewhere in the land of rice paddies. Are you kidding me? That loud voice, surprisingly not heard by the birds and animals nearby, erupted from a building made of stone and clay. Inside, we find someone the size of a mature adult human panting hard from shouting. After turning around, we notice that it was Orochimaru from the Forest of Death after almost being killed by a taste of Naruto's new power. On the other side of the room is a younger adult who seems to be cringing to sound of his angry master. He is Kabuto from the Auto team who just forfeited before the preliminaries could start. Orochimaru-sama, have I ever lied to you? Kabuto asked meekly from the shock, and his answer was a huge and somehow slowed down punch sent him into a table with glassware and herbs. What I can't stand around is that Sasuke-kun is locked up and his bloodline is being harvested into sperm, which I can't use, Orochimaru yelled as his anger is still fresh in his system. The snake sage finally cooled down after that brick-breaker of an outburst was said and done. Why not you just assign one of us to free Sasuke-kun? Then we can take him to Otogakure without the invasion. Kabuto suggested, but he was silenced by another haymaker. No. I will not abandon my chance of a lifetime to get even with my senile old fool of a teacher, Hiruzen Sarutobi, Orochimaru said with as much denial as he can, and there were a lot to hear that you can see it. Besides, Sasuke-kun clearly wants to rebuild his clan, and without his sperm, that will be impossible for him. I can't convince him to join me unless I can prove that Sasuke-kun still recreate his clan. Well then, I do have some good news that can help us with this. Kabuto recovered from his second hit in the chest into the wall. Orochimaru looked at him with a stoic look that spelled very little patience. It better be good, Kabuto. Because if it isn't, then I will get another medic to be my personal doctor and you will be fed to my snakes instead. Orochimaru spoke of a tone that matched his facial expression perfectly. Yes, Orochimaru-sama. We have finally discovered the formula for creating artificial humans from even something as simple as a blood drop. Kabuto spoke in an eager tone, but he grew nervous when his master didn't respond in an instant like last time. After a while, Orochimaru started to move again and this time, spoke in front of Kabuto's face. Are you saying that all we need is Sasuke-kun's blood sample and we can create a clone of him complete with bloodline and everything? Orochimaru sounded desperate but didn't show it at all. Only Kabuto noticed it but remained silent on that part to avoid further outbursts. Yes, Orochimaru-sama, and all we truly need is to sneak into where they are keeping Sasuke-kun and gain his blood to return to our labs. Then we can create our own Sasuke Uchiha. One that will be on our side and do what you say. Kabuto say it all at once so his master doesn't remain on edge. A person like Orochimaru on the edge is not one to want to keep for too long. Things get messy. Thankfully for Kabuto, it worked and Orochimaru reverted to his own cool, collected and cunning self again. Thank you for the info, Kabuto. Let me know when you get your team for infiltration ready and I will give them the signal during the invasion. Are we clear? Orochimaru said with no room for argument, and Kabuto nodded and left the room. Sorry sensei, luck is on my side and no matter what you do, I will get what I want even I have to wait 3 years to get it. Orochimaru then left to gather the rest of his troops for the upcoming invasion in a month. Behind his back, Kabuto was smirking. Looks like you fell for it, Orochimaru-sama. That plan sure worked like a charm. Maybe I should reconsider my stance after all. I better keep this up before this foolish snake finds out too soon. Then the schemer disappeared into the shadows of the lab for another one to pop out. XXXXX. Location: Konoha, the bathhousing district. Naruto was wandering around the various walls that are keeping the privacy of the guests from peeping toms. Speaking of which, the blonde was looking for one because Hiruzen said that the only one in the village that can possibly train Naruto for the finals was to be found the most at the hot springs. But why did the old man say that? Will a blush on his face? I swear if Gigi led me on a wild goose chase in this place, then I am doubling his paperwork before he can finish today. Naruto grumbled as he only found people laughing and moaning in relief as they enjoy the hot water that helped them unwind and relax from crazy days in their lives. As he was about to give up, he heard a giggle. It wasn't made by any woman he ever heard do the same, but more like a man is doing it. When Naruto homed in on the sound, he found a sight that he wished he won't have found. A huge man with white hair covering his entire back was facing the wall to the woman's baths. It must have a peephole in it, while giggling like a squealing fangirl. Not saying a word, Naruto just snuck over and supercharged a kick into the man's bottom, sending him into the baths itself. Then Naruto found a good rock to sit on while enjoying hearing the sounds of angry women making their wrath and a man screaming in a girlish tone. Two of the girls that came out actually didn't mind that they were wearing only towels. They just walked over to Naruto and hugged both of his sides. The blonde smiled at how he was rewarded since these girls happened to be his girlfriends, Sakura and Hinata. "I trust you didn't give mercy, girls?" Naruto said, and he got a kiss as an answer while the two girls giggled. "Of course not, Naruto-kun," Sakura said while snugging in some of the warmth from the hot springs onto Naruto by rubbing her side into his neck. "This peeping Tom happens to be more durable than any old pervert in this village." Hinata finished off while doing the same. Then, the rest of the women finished their wrath on the old man and went home before any else could go wrong. Naruto kissed his girls on the lips before they left to their teachers for the month-long training. "What is your problem, brat?" Of course, Naruto couldn't forget about the sad sack of hair and skin that somehow stood up from all that women fury only to have a fit. "I was just enjoying the view that any man will love to see and you have to rue, arg." He couldn't finish when he was interrupted by Naruto fish to the face. A lot of bone cracking were heard next. "First off all, you old leech," Naruto said in a calm tone in which the old man yelled something about no respect for your elders. That happened to be where the kunoichi hang out and they hate it the most when perverts like you try to take a free peek. "Second, you were giggling at the sight of my girlfriends and I won't watch you do it any longer. Finally, consider what I did as something for your neglectfulness, Godfather." Naruto finished with a tone that can cut through even steel, let alone the old man's heart. "How did you?" The man in white hair was now in shock and nervousness rather than rage. "Gigi told me, you old fart. And the promise you made to my parents, Jiraiya." Naruto answered, in which the old man was now drowning in guilt at the truth that binds those words with thorns. XXXXX. In the Hokage Tower, Hiruzen was working on his paperwork along with his shadow clones moving stacks in and out of the room. Then the old ruler looked to his orb that he uses to watch over his village and saw Naruto discussing with the man named Jiraiya. Hiruzen sighed when he saw how angry and resentful Naruto is while Jiraiya was on his knees and gilled. "Oh Naruto-kun, I knew that you were angry, but can you even cut him some slack? That is way out of your character." Hiruzen thought as he took a break from his papers and remembered when Naruto visited him the other day about training for the finals. Flashback. "I am sure glad that Naruto finally taught me the secret to all this paperwork before I meet my end under a pile of paper and ink." Hiruzen thought in relief until he heard a knock on his office door. "Enter." The door opened to reveal Naruto. "Hi Gigi, I see you took my advice." The blonde spoke in a friendly tone that Hiruzen and his clones smiled at. One of the clones said, "As long as the boss works then we don't complain and slow things down." The other ones nodded and went back to work while Naruto took a chair and sat on the other side of the Hokage's desk while facing the ruler himself. "So Naruto-kun, I am sure you came for more than saying hello," Hiruzen said in much serious tone after seeing how tense the blonde looked in the eye. "Of course Gigi, I need someone to teach me for the exams," Naruto said, brief and to the point. "Kakashi can't afford to train me as Sakura still needed it the most and Hinata has Kurenai-san. Everyone else has their own teacher but me, so I came here to hear from you." Naruto explained and Hiruzen nodded at how true it was. So the Hokage started to search his old memory banks for someone he knew that can help Naruto at his current level. The old man found one, but there is only one problem with that one. He was supposed to be with Naruto all the way from the blonde's birth. Hiruzen sighed with his eyes closed, and that was making Naruto nervous as the blonde only saw his adoptive grandfather like that when there are bigger troubles around the next corner. Hiruzen opened his eyes filled with worry and doubt. "Okay Naruto-kun, I have thought of a teacher for you." Naruto felt relieved but at the same time, confused as to the tone lacking in cheerfulness in the old man's voice. "The problem is that he is also your godfather." Flashback end. XXXXX. Naruto was also remembering that same set of events while Jiraiya was waiting in suspense as to what his godson was going to do next. "Now then godfather." There was still venom of disapproval and disgust when Naruto spoke that word. "If you wish to make it up, then you are going to hand over your books to be burned to ashes and you will actually set a good example for once." Naruto was not making a suggestion but an order for the old man, who flinched at the terms and couldn't find the courage of the moment to complain. Naruto just grabbed whatever porn books were on the stage and blew a small flame that spread to the next book until there was only ash left in the blonde's hands. Speaking of which, those hands also grabbed Jiraiya by the hair as the rest of the blonde dragged the flailing old man out of the hot springs and into a training ground usually reserved for special training, so most ninjas don't even arrive there often. Naruto walked over to a stump that was big enough to act as a stool for him while he dumped Jiraiya over across from him in a pile of bones. It took a while for the old pervert to wake up, kissing the dirt under him. Then he sat up while trying to spit out the dirt under his lips, on both sides. "What is wrong with you Gaki? Jiraiya screamed, but Naruto didn't even flinch. Those words meant nothing to him. I should been asking you that as you trained my father and promised to look after me after I was born, but you weren't seen in the village since. I was forced to rely on the Anbu and Gigi's help until I could protect myself. I just hope you can explain why you were lagging behind only to peek in the hot springs and on other people's girlfriends. Naruto spoke his thoughts, and that left Jiraiya hanging like a worm from a fishing line hook. Well. Jiraiya scrambled in his mind to find an excuse, and it was not easy under the piercing glaze of an angry blonde. I had my spy system to see too. That was it? Naruto finally erupted in front of the old man's face. You're the one that should be my godfather, or even checked on me once in a while. This is the first time in years that you were in the village. Gigi said so. Naruto explained, and Jiraiya felt like his guilt increased tenfold. If you want to make sure that when you kick the bucket, you won't be spending your afterlife trying to escape my disappointed parents, then you better not lag about your training for the finals. Jiraiya nodded like a punished boy after being caught in the cookie jar. First of all, Naruto started, since I have an entire month to train, you are going to teach me what you know about my clan and give me my heritage. Are we clear? Naruto finished his stern order, no way a suggestion, to the old man, who nodded so hard that his head was so close to falling off. Naruto just smirked at how he has the situation under control. Good. XXXXX. When night fell, two shadows hurried to meet each other and were talking about something interesting enough for another person to listen to. I did say that this plan can help with your revenge, but now I am not so sure. A voice that sounded like Kabuto was heard. Don't tell that you and your master are planning to cancel everything even if we got this far. Now that voice was definitely from Gaki, the same one that was the instructor for the Sand team. No, Orochimaru-sama said himself that he wouldn't back down so soon. Kabuto calmly answered, and Gaki cooled down. He still wants the invasion to happen despite having running into a few snags. Now that was enough for the proctor to hear, and he jumped out of his hiding place. Now I have got you traitors. Mikazuki no Mai. Hayate then acted like he separated into three in order to confuse his targets, but he halted himself when he saw Kabuto knock Baki out. Why did you do that? You were in the act together. That is what I want him to know, Hayate-san, Kabuto said, which confused the special Jonin even more. You see, I am in all this to find a real life rather than one on the run, and I have instead run into a very tempting offer that I can seem to refuse since it never seemed to fail me. Kabuto went until he placed his mouth near Hayate's ear and whispered something that made the Konoha ninja gasp. Alright then, I will give you a chance to join us if there are no strings attached, Hayate said sternly, and Kabuto nodded. What happens once the finals undergo will determine that. Remember it, Hayate yelled, and he disappeared with the Sunshine no Jutsu. Kabuto smiled and also vanished with the knocked-out Suna Jonin into the night. XXXXX. Later that night, two souls were finishing up before bed. One was old man who just finished the last of the paperwork from his job, while the other was much younger and was hoping to crash in his home after a big day. Other than that, they were all thinking the same thing, the truth behind a perverted sage and the promise he made long before the Kyuubi attacked the village. Flashback 2 begins. Silence was the only thing that could be heard in that office in that tower that very moment, as Naruto tried to take in that he had a godfather but never found out until he grew to a point where he will do the protecting, which is what a godfather was supposed to do. Hiruzen couldn't do better than just wait for when either Naruto falls apart or explode in his face. Instead, this was heard. Why? Hiruzen gave his full attention to the confused Jinan. Why is that I had a godfather all this time but I never even met him before in my life? Everyone always claimed to be my friend or help take care of me, and that was always a lie, but no one tried to tell me that they are my godparents. Naruto spoke in a broken tone that you can see in his eyes. Why is that, Gigi? Hiruzen sighed. I don't know personally why he never met you, but he was one of my students, so I know him very much. He was always trying to woo ladies into his charm and always peeking on women in the hot springs or baths. I know that much, but I know I made sure that he will put that all aside for his godson, but he must have went and forgot all about that. The old cage said as he was too disappointed about it all in his own way. The last time I even saw Jiraiya was in my office when he was talking about his spy network. He is over half the elemental countries. I told him that as long as he checks on you, then I let him do as he pleases with that system. I guess that he took his sage rights the wrong way and only claimed to have done that so he can get back to his peeking in the women's baths and his porn books. Hiruzen finished and he let a few things slip in his tongue. So he is a sage, huh? I heard that the only ninjas that can be that is when they prove to be worthy replacements for a cage if anything happens to the last one, Naruto said in a voice that left no room for argument, just a discussion. Hiruzen nodded and elaborated while he was at it. Yes, my students that I taught as a Jonin instructor are known as the Sannin no Konoha, and they all are worthy fighters on their own accord. The one that I have the most contact with is Jiraiya, who became known as the Gamma-Sennin because he was able to summon toads of various sizes and uses in combat as well, inventing his own techniques to match that of a toad or his spying. Naruto nodded at the info. Unfortunately, I don't know where my other students are, but I heard that you ran into one of them in the Forest of Death. Naruto nodded after remembering how he managed to only gain the upper hand in his fight with such a dangerous man, with the fact that he took Orochimaru by surprise and weakened him. I understand it better, but I can only get the answers if I know where to look for this Uro sage. Naruto tried to speak in a straight tone, but it was too tempting to smirk at the nickname for the Toad Sage. Even Hiruzen laughed at it as the name was too true and hilarious to boot. Right, I managed to catch a glimpse on my crystal ball that Jiraiya is once again peeping in the hot springs down the road and to your left by 3 blocks. Hiruzen said in a serious tone, and Naruto nodded before getting up to find this so-called godfather. The old man sighed as he relaxed in his chair. I sure hope you get your answers, Naruto-kun. I have seen your mean side before. I don't want anything else to go bad. Flashback to ends. By the time that Naruto finished his trip down memory lane, he had reached his new house and entered. He then saw that his girlfriends were already sleeping in the bed while leaving a space between them that was big enough for him. Naruto just smiled and changed into his night clothes before joining them in the bed. Once he had settled into the sheets, the girls noticed and grasped each of his arms. "Good night, girls," Naruto said before he drifted off on his comfortable pillow while listening to the faint sound of the kunoichi saying goodnight as well. XXXXX. The next started like any other until a scream that sounded like a kya roared through the village, waking anyone trying to sleep in. They had a mind to complain to the one who woke them so early. What they didn't expect was that a group of angry women wearing only towels and bathrobes had beat them to it as they were chasing an old man who already had a red mark in the shape of a fist in a hand. The audience just shrugged. Even civilians knew that getting in the way of angry women is a fool's wish. All of them just returned to their homes to see if they can catch some more sleep. Speaking of the old man, he was realizing that the vixens were gaining on him, and when he was at a dead end, someone's hand reached out to grab him by the white hair on the old man's head and pulled him out of sight. The women turned to see that they lost the old peeping Tom, and they also returned home with a scowl on every face that they can't even enjoy a good bath at the hot springs without being eyed on by perverts, even if one of them is an honorable sennin. Elsewhere, the old man was dragged by the brushy white hair on his head, so he was squirming in pain and discomfort. Then he was dumped on the ground. I told you that I wouldn't take a promise broken so easily. What were you even doing in there that had something to do with my training? Jiraiya looked up to see his godson with a huge scowl on his face that also had a look that wanted answers and not excuses. Well, Naruto, Jiraiya realized that no one ever asked that question even after years of peeping and writing porn. After stuttering and trying for words, he couldn't even whimper as Jiraiya laid on the ground in complete shame, but Naruto saw something else in that sorrow and disgrace. That is all you have to say after you made 2 promises, one since the day I was born and just last night? You really are a broken old man who couldn't even figure out why he couldn't even make friends with the girl he loves, Naruto said with a sigh, and Jiraiya was shocked at how accurate Naruto made of his past when they just met yesterday. How do I know? I have seen it before when I was young. The eyes tell secrets, we just need patience and understanding to listen to those secrets. Jiraiya said nothing for a while until he croaked out, yeah. I did love a woman, but I keep getting rejected. Now, I am starting to think it is because I am such a failure. Jiraiya didn't get the chance to say any more until he was slugged once again on the noggin. Don't go down in dumps with me now, Uro-sennin. That will not be what she wants, would it? Naruto said smugly, and Jiraiya didn't know whatever to yell at the insult or think about the question. Besides, I will do what I can to fix that broken heart and messed up head before you are through. Naruto proposed and saw the shine of anticipation in that old man's eyes, but Naruto wasn't done. If you will teach me all you know about my clan and my inheritance for the finals. Jiraiya nodded without a second's thought. Alright then, can we get started? XXXXX. Despite the fact that Jiraiya was no expert on seals, he knew very much in the art. From that, Naruto learned the basics of Fuinjutsu from the sealing scrolls and explosive notes that ninjas normally use, but since it takes so long, they are bought at stores instead of being made themselves. Naruto displayed a talent writing seals as he got the designs done. Soon, half the month's time had passed and Naruto's learning had increased from the basics to more the complex seals, such as being able to store things that burn paper like fire, and trap seals that can cover an entire area if the user is fast and precise enough to set them up to work right. However, Naruto soon mastered them, and that meant he needed to move on, but before he can, he needed to increase his chakra control so he can activate the seals from even a great distance. By using his chakra reserves as a cloud he can use to set the traps up and take opponents by surprise. That day was today. Hey Naruto, can you come here? Jiraiya called his student over from reviewing Fuinjutsu notes. "You called, Uro-sensei?" Naruto may have held back from his previous insult, but nothing would have changed the fact that he was taught by a teacher who wastes his time peeking on naked women. Sigh, whatever. Jiraiya sighed in defeat on how he can't stop his student for coming up with the disrespectful nicknames. "I want to say that you are doing well in your learning of Fuinjutsu. It took me much longer than a month to get down everything I know about the subject. Still, you can't progress any further without this I am about to teach you." Naruto waited in awe that Jiraiya chuckled at. "I am going to start teaching you about a jutsu that one of my earlier students invented." "You mean the Yondaime?" Naruto asked. He had heard that it was Jiraiya who taught the fourth how to channel chakra, so he will soon become the most powerful Hokage in the world. "Yes, I do, and its name is the Rasengan." Upon saying that name, Jiraiya opened his palm upwards and then, a sphere of blue chakra energy appeared hovering above the hand. Naruto started in awe and glee. Yes, this technique is also the pinnacle of chakra control, as it is basically taking raw chakra into a stable form and also into a shape. It is basically containing a tornado and releasing it on your targets if you wish it. Jiraiya explained and Naruto nodded at every word. It took the Yondaime Hokage 3 years to come up with the concept and to finally develop the jutsu. It took your teacher a half a year to learn it, and I personally mastered this jutsu in a month. Jiraiya said to hopefully hide his boastfulness, but Naruto was not to be fooled but still was amazed that there was someone who mastered a jutsu that took a genius like the Yondaime Hokage years to master. Now that is said, here is the first step. Jiraiya started and he threw a water balloon for Naruto to catch. "If you can pop that with just your chakra, then I will teach you the next step." Pop! Jiraiya was interrupted when the balloon popped only seconds after it reached Naruto's hand. The old perv just stared at the grinning blonde who just shrugged. "What? You said that the jutsu is moving chakra, so I thought that was the first step. I jutsu used my chakra to move the water in the balloon in all directions until it popped," Naruto said plainly, and Jiraiya could just nod dumbly. The old man then took out a rubber balloon and filled it with air before giving it to Naruto. "That will the second step, and when you show me after today that you have figured it out, then we will stop there and move on to Fuinjutsu as well. Your katana, as I heard from sensei, right, that was one of your elemental affinities," Jiraiya said sternly but to the point, and Naruto nodded as he left for his home with the old man just standing there thinking on how this student was unlike any other he had in his entire career. XXXXX. "Wow, Naruto-kun, you actually are being trained with a senin? You are so lucky," Hinata said as she sat on her boyfriend's side that evening. Sakura was on the other side all the same. "I was lucky to find someone available to teach me for the finals, everyone else is too busy or taken." Naruto corrected gently and his girls understood. "I was also lucky that I sold the old perv out before he saw what you girls hide from such eyes." The kunoichi growled like an angered animal at an intruder on their land, but it sounded more like a fierce beast guarding their mate. "I just wish that I can enjoy a trip to the hot spring without being peeked on. It is our right to have privacy from all but who we choose to share it with," Sakura mumbled after her hot spring time was ruined the other day. "So girls, how are your training coming along?" Naruto asked. He clearly wanted to change the subject since it was very sore for his company. That turned scowls into smiles. "It is actually doing pretty nice. Kakashi-sensei really helped me with my stamina and strength as well as teaching me some Doden he personally knew and a few Suten. I am thinking of starting some of my own," Sakura answered, purring in her boyfriend's chest like she loved to do. "Haku-chan is training with Asuma-sensei since Shikamaru is being trained by his own clan like Choji," Sakura added for extra measure. "Same here. Kurenai-sensei is teaching me a lot of genjutsu she knew and helping me improve my accuracy. Shino-kun is getting help from his own clan," Hinata said as well, but Naruto just had to ask, how is dog breath being handled after what he said in front of his clan? Normally, the mention of Kiba is painful enough, but it made Hinata smirk in glee. "You will know when he is dragged to see the finals by his family, but trust me, you will know how he can never bother me again. There is too much on the head and chest for the Inuzuka." Hinata spoke like a ninja usually does, filled with hidden meanings. Naruto couldn't be any more proud at how well his girls are at making a good example of how kunoichi really are. The couples continued to enjoy each other's company until they all turned in to prepare for yet another day of training. Soon enough, the day once called tomorrow is now known as today as of the moment. Naruto woke up along with the girls. They cleaned each other up and ate their breakfast before leaving for their own teachers. Elsewhere, a familiar pile of white hair seemed to be giggling at the goods he is feasting to his eyes. But he doesn't seem to notice a boy who with a rubber balloon in hand was sneaking on him as silent as a mouse until pop. Arg! A girly shriek was to follow and the boy with blonde hair chucked as he looked at the sky for the white mess to land, which it did not far from Naruto. "Well, it took all evening but I finally got the second part done," the blonde said until he interrupted. "Will you stop it with the inventive ways to scare my heart out? Jiraiya said and went to look for his spot only to notice that he was in the forest instead. Wait, who said you were in a hot spring? I sure didn't. Naruto smugly said and Jiraiya still caught on. You used genjutsu on me? How? You have too much chakra to control in order to do that, Jiraiya shouted in utter confusion that was infuriating as his answer was a smirking blonde until, you're right about that and that is why I am not using my chakra alone to cast genjutsu, Naruto said in his definition of a ninja dialogue. Jiraiya had a face like he was catching on but Naruto wanted to break the ice anyways. Yes, I can use my chakra to interact with the chakra reserves of others so that they will be forced to undergo their own genjutsu. I just use my immense reserves to keep it up. Naruto was feeling like he scored one over a ninja capable of taking the Hokage seat if he chose to. I get now and good for you. Jiraiya muttered sacristy before switching moods, and yes I see you have got the second part down, you really are surprising me all the time. Now let's get started on the rest of your training. Naruto smirked as he listened and braced himself. Now if you are thinking that I am going to write out what Jiraiya is going to teach Naruto besides Fuinjutsu and the Rasengan, then too bad. I can be a ninja sometimes even as the author tilde. Just be patient and I promise that I will show you just how much Naruto had improved once he starts his fight. Too bad. XXXXX. The rest of the month passed very fast for sure for the ninjas who have their fights awaiting them in the same stadium in the village. The only difference is that the audience is larger and more diverse, complete with nobles and daimyos. The 12 genin were standing in the field while waiting for the clock to start the finals. Naruto looked at his two girlfriends to give them one last smile to boost their confidence and quell their nervousness. Soon, the long and agonizing wait was over when the Hokage arrived to face the participators of the exams. Good morning everyone. Hiruzen greeted the audience and competition alike. As you know, today we'll decide who is going to make it up the ranks from mere genin to responsible chunin. Compared to what happened last month, we have a much better number of fighters to compete today so I hope you get your trip's worth. Now, let the finals begin. As soon as the speech was done, Hayate appeared as the proctor, to start things off as our decided first match. Will all but Sakura Haruno and Hinata Hyuga leave the field? The request was done and the two fighters and fellow lovers were left to face each other for a good match. Are both fighters ready? Yes, I am ready. That is what I like to hear. Hajime. Hayate raised his hand in excitement and announced the first match in the finals to go underway. That's the end guys, if you enjoyed then make sure to leave a comment. This is Chaos Shinobi signing off.